across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome. Happy birthday to me. Good evening and welcome to a very special edition of the Political Asylum. It is our 1-year anniversary and boy, have I got a blockbuster birthday show lined up for you tonight. Get involved, get on the phone, get on the show and call me on 0344 499 1000 or WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Tuesday, the 29th of April. Here's what's coming up. First, the cream of Britain's armed forces, the Navy's crack Royal Marines, are embroiled in a bitter row over diversity. A serving soldier has issued a public warning amid fears that the Marines are lowering standards in a bid to recruit the first ever female commando. He claims that as many as 1,000 of his colleagues rapidly backed his letter to military chiefs warning that DEI policies are in danger of creating a weak version of the globally respected and feared Marines, and that this political correctness could cost lives. In response to him raising the alarm, he was flown to London and interrogated at the Ministry of Defence. 26,000 men a year apply to join one of the finest military forces in the world. Only an average of 400 pass the grueling training qualifying course. So far, 900 women have attempted the notoriously tough induction, but none have made the grade. Do we need diversity in our armed forces? 0344 499 1000. In other news, she's the dedicated nurse who was suspended by the NHS for referring to a convicted female identifying paedophile as Mr. and he. She refused to call him she or her. This guy, brought to the hospital from jail, responded by asking Jennifer May how she would like it if he called her the N-word. He even lunged at her and threatened to lodge a complaint against her. Result? She was marched out of the ward and nothing at all happened to the paedophile. A brave woman and a committed Christian. Jennifer joins me in an hour to tell her harrowing story. She's still suspended after the Supreme Court's biological sex ruling. Why is she still suspended? What is wrong with the NHS? 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, the sister of a jailed grooming gang member is spearheading a campaign called Fighting for Fair Trials and says that some of the men jailed, including her brother, are innocent. She too will tell her story. Plus, as experts say that the massive Spanish power cut was caused by a reliance on too much unstable renewable energy, Labour unravels over crazy Ed Miliband's net zero mania. Tony Blair has urged the government to scale back on its green claptrap because long-suffering Brits can't afford soaring energy bills and they don't see why they should be required to change their lifestyles when the UK only produces less than 1% of the world's carbon emissions. Downing Street has responded by insisting that Looney Ed's mad green mission will continue apace. Whose side are you on? 0344 499 1000. And not forgetting the latest horrors on the migrant crisis. There's 247 more foreigners crossed the channel illegally yesterday, and the total arrivals for this year soared to over the 10,000 mark, 10,358 to be precise. It's a record. Meanwhile, an idiot immigration tribunal judge has allowed an Afghan junkie to stay in Britain because he says that the Taliban would give him a hard time over his drug habit. Who cares? So what? 0344 499 1000. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk for this very special show. This is the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Tuesday night together. Now, I bannered up this excellent story that we have about the Royal Marines. It is a blockbusting story, and once again, it has been brought to us by the one and only Isabel Oakeshott, Talk's brilliant international editor. Welcome, Isabel.
Good evening, Kevin. I can't wait to talk about this story. It's an absolute jaw-dropper. Do you want to give some more details, or shall I launch in?
Well, yeah, you tell the story. Go for it.
So I was contacted last night by a source that I trust very well in the ex-Special Forces community to draw my attention to a truly extraordinary scandal inside the Royal Marines community. In a nutshell, one of their number decided to alert his bosses to widespread, what he claims is widespread concerns within the Royal Marines that so-called diversity and inclusion policies are going to end up diminishing this very elite force, this very, very exclusive and highly respected part of our armed forces. And the worry is...
They're the cream of our armed forces, as you say, a byword for military excellence all over the world.
Exactly. And the worry is that standards are already or will in the future be diminished as a result of a kind of equalities drive to get more women into the Marines. Now, as you said, at the moment, no woman has ever made it into that elite, into the kind of the top level, what they call getting the green beret, becoming a Royal Marine Commando. But many are now trying, and there are women in the sort of lower ranks of the Marines. And there is, according to this whistleblower who has taken the extraordinary and unusual move of going public with his concerns, there is widespread anger behind closed doors about this amongst the men. And this isn't a sexist thing. What they're saying is that if the MOD reduces standards, which the MOD obviously insists they're not, for women, then that is actually going to leave our armed forces in danger in a battle situation, and potentially civilians as well. Now, the MOD tonight says, absolutely, we do not lower standards for women, and they point out as evidence of that there are still no female Royal Marine Commandos. But that doesn't mean that an awful lot of Marines aren't very worried about what is going on in the drive to get more. And they say that standards are absolutely being compromised as women go through the earlier stages of training and qualification. And so for his pains, our whistleblower, who decided to write an open letter to his bosses and decided to canvass opinion amongst his colleagues in a kind of informal survey, which he says as many as 1,000 Marines backed. For his pains, he says, targeted to the most unbelievable witch hunt. He was flown from his military base to the MODH quarters in London, where he was subjected to a 2-hour, what he calls interrogation, and what the MOD privately describe as a bit more of a chat. I think I know which it probably was, probably what in the military is known as a meeting without coffee. Afterwards, he was released and allowed to go back to his job, but the story hasn't ended there. And he was subjected to further action further down the line. So I think this raises so many questions. One, about what's really going on about diversity and inclusion in the armed forces. And this isn't just about women. It will also be about ethnic minority recruitment. Our whistleblower didn't talk about that. He was very focused on the women's side of it. But it does raise questions about what's truly going on. And secondly, about the treatment of armed forces personnel who raise very legitimate concerns and attempt to do so internally, because he didn't mean this to blow up into a big public thing, and then get treated as if they're basically some kind of terrorist. That's how he says he felt. So that's story tonight, and I think there are serious questions to be asked.
As I said in my monologue, 26,000 men every year apply to join the Marines, and they have to go through this grueling training induction scheme to see who's up to the job, and it is notorious. I mean, there's no sleep, it's physically exhausting, and such is the rigorous nature of this test that out of 26,000 annual applicants, an average of 400 qualify. Think about that. Now, in the history of the Marines, 900 women have applied to do this course, and none of them have passed. What our friend, the whistleblower, fears, and he says that many of his fellow soldiers say there's evidence of this, he fears that in the name of DEI, diversity, equality and inclusivity, that standards are being lowered to make sure that the Marines can fairly soon announce, hey, we've got our first female commando. Now, that would be a great thing, don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with that. But what this guy, our friend, is saying, and he said it, as you said, in an open letter to military chiefs, to the bosses of the commandos, of the Royal Marines, he said, you're lowering standards to make sure this happens, and that will risk lives. That will put us in danger. And I don't think it's an unreasonable standpoint.
So the MOD, I've spent a lot of time today trying to establish what their official line is on this, and they are not, it's really important to say they're not denying that this whistleblower was flown from his base, which I think is Scotland, though I don't know for sure, was flown to London and was interrogated. They are very adamant that there's nothing to see here move on in terms of whether standards are being compromised. And they've got a fair point that as of yet, you know, there isn't a female Royal Marine commando. So it's important to reflect that. But are all these Marines just making it up with their concerns? Are they a bunch of misogynists? Are they all, you know, just out to keep this some kind of all-male macho thing just for the sake of it? I don't think so. This guy's not on his own. You know, whether or not as many as 1,000 people backed his petition, I don't know. The MOD points out that that's unverified. We don't know how many did sign the petition, but I don't think that the answer to that is a small number, not least because I've been quite able, without trying too hard, to speak to another person who did sign it and is not connected to the original whistleblower. So this has been going round the Royal Marines. They're all talking about it. It's a big deal. And so is the way that the chain of command has handled it, because if our sources to be believed, instead of tackling the concern amongst the guys, what they've done is a classic government thing to do when you're under pressure. Let's go and shoot the messenger. Shoot
the messenger, indeed. And the big question here is, you know, diversity, DEI. Should it really be a priority in our armed forces? Surely the people serving their country militarily should be the best people qualified for the job, regardless of their gender. Now, as I said earlier, if a woman can pass this grueling test to join the Marines, and it's exactly the same test as all the guys, then good for her, and that would be a great moment. However, so far, no woman has managed to do that. And if you read up on this, if you see the narrative that has been going through the media now for a couple of years, what's coming out, what's emanating from the MOD and from various military experts is it's only a matter of time before we get our first female commando. And it seems to me fairly clear now that there's an impetus. They definitely want to make this fantastically politically correct announcement. Look, we've got a woman in the Royal Marines. Our friend, the whistleblower, just says that to him and he says about at least 1,000 of his colleagues who immediately backed his letter to military chiefs. That's what he says. The MOD says it was fewer than that. But he says that in the rush, in the enthusiasm by military chiefs to recruit their first female commando, they're lowering standards to make sure that happens. And that would be yet another moment in this diversity-obsessed country where DEI actually is kind of insane. It's insane. It's mad.
The reflex of government departments when this kind of thing is exposed by someone is not to address the fundamental concern. It is to shut the person up, to smear them, to silence them, to denigrate them. And there is no denying from Whitehall sources that when they found out about this petition, they made damn sure to get it removed, deleted, taken out of circulation within 24 hours, and have basically terrified the Royal Marines into saying no more about it. I can't emphasize enough how unusual it is for any serving armed forces personnel to go public with something like this. Yeah. This young man is on camera talking about his concerns, and it's readily available if anyone wants to have a look at it. For all sorts of reasons, we've decided not to show it on Talk Tonight. But that is a sensational thing and extremely brave for a serving Royal Marine Commando to do. And I should also add that whatever concerns there may be about anything bad he may have done that we don't know about, he is still a serving
member of the Royal Marines. It's as simple as that. And as you say, Isabel, this is totally symptomatic of what happens in this country and indeed all around the West these days, that anyone who challenges diversity, inclusivity, equality, for very valid reasons, is treated like some sort of criminal, some kind of pariah. And this guy is literally flown down. As you say, we think he's based in Scotland. Flown down to London to the MOD. He actually says he was flown down, so we know it's somewhere up north. Flown down to the Ministry of Defence, where he's interrogated for 2 hours. What he's doing is raising very legitimate concerns about the danger potentially posed to Royal Marines, one of the greatest crack military forces on the face of the planet, should standards be lowered. And if they're going to lower standards just to say we've got female recruits, then, as our friend said, he fears that we will end up with a weak and frankly pathetic version of what we know to be the Royal Marines now. So this is a very serious situation, and as you say, we've got to stress to the audience here, you've been locked in negotiations all day with the Ministry of Defence. They're not denying this story. They're basically saying it's utterly true. They're saying, yes, we did fly this guy down. Yes, we did talk to him. Yes, he did write this open letter. The only thing they're challenging is that 1,000 of his colleagues immediately sort of backed him. So that's the only thing. Everything else has been stood up by the Ministry of Defence. So I want to ask the audience, what the hell do you make of this? What the hell do you make of this? Give me a call, 0344 499 1000, or you can send me a WhatsApp voice note on the same number. I look forward to hearing from you. But I think this is another mad day in our descent into this crazed DEI rabbit hole. All for diversity when it's required, when it's suitable. But in the military forces, come on. 0344 499 1000. Isabel will stay with us and we'll discuss some more diversity issues when we come back. Stay where you are.
mean, what that is downright cowardly on the part of the organisation. They seem unable to face up to the truth, and so they're shooting the messenger. And this is such an ugly part of our institutions now, you know, that I get so many emails from people, including from inside the police, by the way, they're so desperate to reveal things, and yet they're terrified.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, I mean, this story is very important militarily, but it feeds right into the way the authorities always seem to get it wrong. They round on the wrong person. They make a victim out of someone who should be probably hailed a hero. Later in the show, about 8 o'clock, we've got, remember the story about the brave nurse, who refused to call a male paedophile who said he was a woman, identified as a woman, refused to call him she or her, and she was suspended. She was marched out of the ward. Meanwhile, he's calling her the N-word, lunging at her physically. He's a jailbird. He came to hospital for some medical treatment, and she said, "I'm not calling you she or Mrs. or Ms. or her." And for that, she's been suspended. I mean, you know, this is so wrong. She'll be joining me at 8 o'clock to tell her story. So let's talk about some of the other kind of diversity horrors that you and I have covered, actually. One was your brilliant story, of course, from a couple of weeks ago about the West Yorkshire police, who in the name of diversity have banned white people from applying to be coppers. I mean, as I say, they call it diversity and inclusivity. But their form of diversity is exclusive. It excludes people. So if you're white, you are excluded from applying to be a copper in West Yorkshire. Where is the inclusivity in that?
I mean, this has infected so many of our institutions, and it won't just be West Yorkshire Police. They happen to get caught red-handed, but it's everywhere. And the paranoia surrounding it. I mean, in another story that you and I broke, Kev, remember poor Gary Coston, who worked in the Home Office, for the contractors doing deportations of foreign criminals. He, poor man, lost his job simply for sharing a social media post that raised some questions that included, from what I can recall, the word Muslim. Nothing disparaging at all, simply a news headline. You know, this is so corrosive. We are not making ourselves stronger as a nation. We are not prosecuting crime or preventing crime or controlling our borders or becoming as good as we can be as an armed forces by fussing around endlessly about whether we've got enough women or brown people or people of different religions serving in these very sensitive and important posts. It should be down to who can do the job best. And, you know, I feel very sorry for people that try to expose this from their various organisations, because no good can come of it as far as they're concerned. You know, they pay the most terrible price. And in some cases, as in, I suspect the case of this Royal Marine, you know, there's a naivety in the way they go about it. You know, they are very passionate. This guy is a young man, and he almost certainly just miscalculated the hell that would break loose if he dared to tread into this toxic forum. And I mean, likely will lose everything career-wise and will have to become a politician or something. But it is such a dangerous thing for people to expose. But I would appeal to people to keep on doing it if they feel they can, because only by knowing what's going on can we fight against it.
Yeah, and you just imagine them you talk about the NHS. As I say, this brave nurse, Jennifer Melly, will be joining me in half an hour or so. A victim of ludicrous pursuit of diversity and, inclusivity towards trans people. Fine. This guy was a convicted paedophile in jail, brought to the hospital for treatment, demanded to be called she and her, and this nurse said, well, no, for two reasons. She said that he was having a particular procedure that was rather male, shall we say, and secondly, she's a Christian. She's a very devout Christian. She said, it's against my religion to call a man a woman. I'm not going to do it. He actually physically lunged at her and called her the N-word. Nothing happens to him. She gets suspended. This is the NHS that spends £40 million a year on 800 diversity officers. The same NHS that constantly complains about not having enough money. It's a national sickness, this. It is turning Britain insane.
I'm so glad you used the word sick there. Let me repeat it. The NHS is sickeningly woke. And that case that you've just described there, and I look forward to the interview, is truly disgraceful. That individual who wanted to be called Mrs. or whatever it was he wanted to be called, as you say, had an appalling background, was extremely lucky not to be called something properly insulting, because that is what they deserved for the way that they were behaving. And there is no way on the planet that poor woman should have been disciplined in the way that she was. The NHS is always moaning away about how difficult it is to hold on to staff and how well they look after their own people. Well, do they really? Or are they pandering to this kind of absolute claptrap?
Well, that's exactly what it is. As I say, this is a dedicated nurse of some experience, and the only thing she did was to say, I'm sorry, I'm not calling you she or her. Now, this was before the Supreme Court's ruling, her suspension. So the reason I'm very interested to talk to Jennifer tonight is what is happening now? Given that the Supreme Court ruling said, well, frankly, if you're not biologically born female, you don't really have the right to call yourself a woman or a female. And if nobody else wants to do that, that's their right. In fact, it was always our right. I wouldn't go round saying to, trans people, I don't care what you want to be called, I'll call you a bloke or whatever, because it might, upset them. But if I fancy doing it, why shouldn't I do it? But if people do that, they're treated like criminals. It is not against the law to do what trans people call misgendering them. So if they want to be called women, and I want to, or you or I, Isabel, want to call them blokes, we can. That's the law. It's particularly the law after the Supreme Court's ruling a couple of weeks ago. So I'll look forward to talking to Jennifer. And in the meantime, thanks again for an extraordinary story, and the switchboard's already lighting up. So thank you very much, Isabel, and we'll talk again soon. That's the brilliant Isabel Oakeshott, Talks International editor. Let me know what you think about this. One thing I want to hear from, if there are any of you out there, are there any Marines, former Marines, just military people generally? Let me know what you think about this. I'm really interested to hear from military people, particularly perhaps ex-Marines. Tell us all about it. 0344 499 1000. Big thank you to Isabel Oakeshott. Next, it is James Price. We're going to talk about net zero. Labour is unravelling, falling apart. Tony Blair and Keir Starmer having a massive row. Tony Blair saying that crazy Ed Miliband's mad net zero lunacy must be scaled back. Oh, but Keir doesn't like that. So stay tuned for that. That next.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, in the studio, it is former Conservative Special Advisor in James Price. Hello, James. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me here.
What else can I call you? There's another... You're in some other organisation.
Oh, so many.
So many.
I collect these things, like little tin medals on Idi Amin.
He's a winger for Arsenal, played for England last week. Oh, man, there were so many talents. All right, let's talk about this extraordinary developing story as we speak. The net zero issue is tearing Labour apart. Now, you know, we have spoken... many commentators, many members of the public have spoken for some time now about the fact the public are sick and tired of crazy Ed Miliband's net zero lunacy. I mean, it is zealotry taken to extraordinary lengths. And what we're mainly saying is, why are we having to pay the highest energy prices in the world, 5 times higher than America, when we only produce less than 1% of the world's pollution, of the world's carbon emissions? So it doesn't really matter what we do. It won't make any difference. But, of course, Ed won't budge, nor will Keir. Anyway, guess who stepped into the fray today? It is Tony Blair. And Tony Blair has made the point that I just made. He said, look, people are not going to put up with this. They're going to say, why are we spending all this money? Why are we being made poorer and colder? Because, you know, all those heat pumps, otherwise known as cold pumps, won't exactly keep you very warm. Why are we being made poorer and colder on the back of a net zero mania based on the fact that we don't even make any difference to the world's pollution? So Tony Blair has today called for a scaling back of Labour's green claptrap, and the Downing Street have issued a statement saying, oh, no, we're going to carry on. Something's afoot, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely extraordinary, isn't it? And of course, famous noted Blairites, Kevin O'Sullivan and James Price, weighing in here behind Tony Blair. It's a peculiar feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I just said to James off air, I said, man, this is a weird position. We have to back Tony Blair, but I do.
No, he's backing us, right? I think if this stuff had worked, he would have been carrying on being gung-ho about it. Tony Blair might be evil in certain ways, but he's a smart guy and he understands the writing on the wall that this government cannot survive if, as you say, we keep having 5 times the expense of energy that America has got. Yeah. You go to America and you realise that people, you know, they heat their houses. They don't have to ration heating in the same way. Think about the winter fuel payment for Argo that we've had recently, that will happen again this winter, by the way. It will keep getting worse and worse for us. I suspect what Tony Blair is doing here is trying to push what social scientists would call the Overton window. This is the kind of area of accepted discourse, trying to push it in a certain direction to give Keir Starmer the ability to sack Ed Miliband in a big cabinet reshuffle that comes.
This is what former Prime Minister Sardoni said, that it is wrong that people are being asked to make financial sacrifices and changes in lifestyle when they know that their impact on global emissions is minimal. That's my point. Tony Blair putting it better than I did there. Number 10 responded by saying, we will reach net zero in a way that treads lightly on people's lives. Oh, yeah, right. But not by telling them how to live or behave. Clearly, there's going to be a range of views, but we are of the view that this is an enormous economic opportunity, and the Prime Minister has made clear we are already seeing the benefit. No, we're not. No, we're not. Miliband told us that fairly soon after they got in and his green claptrap was brought into play, that our energy bills would fall by £300. So far, they're up by £300 and still rising. I mean, we are seeing the lie of Miliband's nonsense, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think that he won't be able to deal with the fact that all of his rhetoric, we can call it probably here lies, don't match up with reality, right? This is why you don't tend to find that many left-wing people working in businesses in the real world, because their mad ideas don't survive. They have to go into politics or into universities and places like that to make it work. Look at what's happened on the continent yesterday across Spain and Portugal. They lost power. Obviously, as a historian, we can make the joke that Spain and Portugal have been losing power since the 17th century. but slightly more acute
What
yesterday. Slightly more acute yesterday. And we actually saw that there were some power failures as well in the UK around the same time. A couple of power stations in the UK. And we come very dangerously close already to our national grid not being able to handle it and seeing total blackout. You can only imagine how devastating that would be if it came to pass.
Absolutely, and many experts, we're going to be doing this story later on in the show, about 9 o'clock if you're interested, are saying that the probable reason for this mass blackout in Spain that spread to Portugal and parts of France was an over-reliance on unreliable renewable energy, wind, solar power, wind, etc. I was just saying that we're showing a picture of it's a completely black picture. That was Spain yesterday, folks. So yesterday, 60% of Spain's grid was being run on renewables. Last Wednesday, 100% for the first time ever. Now, that's all very well. By the way, solar panels work better in Spain than they do here. But apparently, if you over-rely on renewables, it makes your grid unstable. And they're saying this is probably why they had this mass power outage yesterday. And the way we're going, it'll happen here soon. And the day it happens here, Miliband's gone.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, let's hope that the day never comes.
Yeah.
Let's hope the Miliband goes before
I
that
don't know,
day comes as well.
if it means getting rid of Miliband, let's do it tomorrow. You know.
It would be worth it, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and as you say, Spain is a great place to do some of these renewables, especially solar. Look, if you can get basically free energy coming down from the sun, that's a great idea. But the rest of the economics have to work, and all the boring bits, the way that you connect these things up to the existing national grid, that has to work as well. A lot of our national grid is very, very old. Obviously, we were the first people to start using electricity properly, and we've not invested in these things at all. And yet, instead of doing this boring but very serious and important work, Miliband is going around doing all these mad conversations, not understanding how the economics works. He did a terrible interview the other day where he could not understand, the interviewer could not get into his head that adding tax onto whatever the international cost of energy would be, if we add more tax on it than we do than other countries, then our power would cost more. And the guy could not get this very, very simple concept into his head. He's in charge of this stuff.
Well, he should have got his ukulele out and said the answer lies blowing in the wind. But his energy ideas are incoherent. They're unscientific. They're not right. They're wrong. Everybody knows it. And here's the deal. In America, when old Trump got in and just said that's the end of net zero, no more green claptrap, drill baby drill, their energy prices are now plummeting. And the Americans love it, obviously, and British people love it too. They're looking across the Atlantic and saying, why can't we have this? Why can't we frack? There's the biggest reservoir of shale gas in all of Europe lying untouched under Lincolnshire right now. That would give this country cheap energy for 10 years. We're not allowed to frack because that'll cause an earthquake. That's crap.
It's complete nonsense.
Crap.
And the technology has been proven in America to be incredibly, incredibly effective. It's why America no longer needs to involve itself in the Middle East in the same ways, because it's actually now a massive energy exporter. So it doesn't need to go and get involved in the forever wars that Trump used to talk about. And yet we're not doing it here. We're poorer, we're colder, old people are dying in their beds because of it. And when you've got that kind of energy superabundance, you can do all kinds of other things. You can invest in the cool AI technologies that need loads of power. You can do all this stuff. So the fracking that we could be doing now could be used to actually fund all the nice, cuddly renewables, if that's what you wanted to do. It could be used to fund the new, exciting next-generation nuclear technology. We could have Rolls-Royce, a great British company, put a small modular nuclear reactor on every coastal town, unlimited, clean, free energy forever. And we don't do that because we listen to a bunch of green morons, probably being funded by places like the Kremlin, who want us to stay poor.
We're going to go to break in just a second, but I don't think you can overestimate the significance of Tony Blair's intervention today. He's thrown a grenade into this, hasn't he? And I believe that in the fullness of time, sooner, hopefully, rather than later, it will lead to the end of Ed Miliband as our net zero secretary. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's a really, really good point. I think Blair and Starmer are probably very tight with one another. Blair probably the only person that really knows quite what Starmer is going through. And again, however much of a wrong and Blair might have been in destroying lots of our constitution in lots of ways, he's a smart politician. And if he's doing this, as I say, it's creating that space for Starmer to junk Miliband. And although I don't want to see the Labour Party do very well in anything, getting rid of him would be good for the country, and so let's do it.
Also, I mean, you know, we're not Blair fans, but he's not a stupid man. And in private, I bet he's not talking well of Ed Miliband, put it that way. I bet he's got a few names for him. So this is a once-in-a-lifetime offer, folks. It's James Price, Kevin O'Sullivan. Good for Tony Blair. Go, Tony. You will never hear that again. We're going to break now. And when we come back, there are more issues to discuss. Stick around.
I mean, what that is downright cowardly on the part of the organisation. They seem unable to face up to the truth, and so they're shooting the messenger. And this is such an ugly part of our institutions now, you know, that I get so many emails from people, including from inside the police, by the way, they're so desperate to reveal things, and yet they're terrified.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with former Conservative Special Advisor and striker for Arsenal, James Price. No, the Arsenal bit I made up. You haven't played for Arsenal, have you?
No, I was left back.
No. Very good defender. You can't defend our migrant crisis, though, can you? See what I did there? That's why I get the big bucks. Another 247 migrants came over yesterday, and that takes us over the 10,000 mark. I think it's about 10,300 now have come across this year. That's 40% up on all previous records. That in itself is terrifying. 40% up on all previous records, on last year, any other year. This government doing nothing about it. Yvette Cooper, though, ostensibly finally did do something yesterday. She said that foreign sex offenders are to be barred from gaining asylum in the UK under a new law that she's going to announce. Oh, well, that's good, isn't it? Wow, really? So rapists can't come and live here? Well, thanks very much, Yvette. But they'll still be able to appeal. So if they're living here and they're a sex offender, what Yvette Cooper says is that they won't be able to use the ECHR's right to a family life clause to stay in this country anymore. I don't know how they're going to achieve that, to be honest with you. I mean, if you're going to be a member of the ECHR, I guess you have to do what it says. And if we start saying, well, you can stick your right to a family life where the sun don't shine, we've just broken the deal with the ECHR. So she says this, but, you know, is that going to happen?
It's a great question, and it's a blood-boiling story in general, right? Just for a second, how many more hundreds of people in a single day are coming over here that the tax money that people who are listening and watching this show are spending on, that we want to be spending on the NHS, want to be spending on schools, all the important stuff, is instead going to be spent on hotel rooms for people who were in a perfectly safe country in France, who've got a completely alien culture to us, almost in all cases are young fighting-age men, and now many more have come over here in the past few years than we even have members of the British Army storing up all kinds of problems. And yet this very thin gruel announcement from the government, of course it's good that we shouldn't have foreign rapists coming over. It's mad that was ever allowed in the first place, by the way. But as you say, they're still going to use different bits of the ECHR. The Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, has pointed out they can just use Article 3 instead on this stuff. And if the Home Secretary wants to say, well, they're not going to be able to do that anymore, that's going to have to start disapplying huge sections of domestic British law that we have for a long time woven all this ECHR nonsense all the way through. So you're either going to have to start deleting huge bits of legislation, which I'm entirely in favour of. We absolutely should do that. There should be some great repeal bill that gets rid of all this crap and a huge amount more. Crap being a technical term for legislation, of course.
We've been saying that word a lot, so you know, there's a lot of crap to talk about tonight, folks.
Or the government's going to find itself breaking its sacred taboo of international law. And we all know that Keir Starmer and the Attorney General and all these other people care much more about this international law than they do about British law.
But this new diktat by Yvette Cooper is basically a proposal to ignore one of the important clauses of the European Convention on Human Rights. So it's like, oh, we want to be a member, but we're not going to obey your rules. There may be trouble ahead, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely right. And other countries do this all the time, right? And other countries do this with, say, the European Union as well. Right? One of the problems that we had with the EU is all the mad nonsense that was coming out of Brussels, the regulation of the bendiness of bananas and all that kind of stuff people will remember. We used to actually take that seriously because the British civil service did everything by the book. The French would look at it and go, meh. They'd shrug their shoulders and go off and eat a croissant, have an affair or whatever it was. They would ignore it. And we don't ignore it. If we're going to start doing that, I'm in favour of that to some extent, but that doesn't go very well for the rule of law. We need to have a proper, serious, coherent plan to strip all of this rot out of our legal statute and actually have some sensible policies for the British people, not for foreign rapists of all people.
The other question, Chris Philp brought this up, but he can talk because it was still going on when he was in government. But, you know, how did we get to this point? I mean, why were they ever allowed to stick around? Why were they ever allowed to claim asylum? Rapists, paedophiles, people who go to jail, you know, and are then allowed to stay. Why do we have to come to a point where the Home Secretary just said, do you know what, we've been able to think about this and we're not going to let jailed paedophiles stay in the country anymore. Oh, thank you, at last, you know, but why did it take so long?
It is extraordinary, isn't it? I think it's a very broader, almost civilizational point that across the West, in the US, in Australia, in Canada, in New Zealand, in Europe, here in particular, there's a kind of radical empathy, like misplaced empathy, that looks at someone and go, oh, the poor guy, he must have had a terrible life. It must have been very difficult for him not growing up with Sky TV and iPhones and all the rest of it. It can't be possibly be his fault that he went and did all these heinous crimes. Let's let him in because we've had a nice life and we'll balance things out. That is the way to civilizational ruin.
Now, I agree. There are two things about the ECHR. We should leave it. I mean, that would be the best thing to do. But in the end, it's not probably at the heart of the issue. The problem with the ECHR in this country is the way that our immigration tribunal judges choose to interpret it. So out comes from jail a paedophile who's just done 6 years for sexually raping children, and he says, oh, well, I've got 2 kids of my own. And they go, oh, well, you've got a right to a family life then, you could stay here. Now, I would say, even in the tribunal judge area, that these people should just say, well, you know, sod it. I don't care about your right to a family life. You're a paedophile. You're a threat to the danger. You pose a threat to kids, to the people of this country. You're out. So the real problem, yes, the ECHR would be good to leave, but also we need to do something about these idiot tribunal judges who are frankly left-wing lunatics. Now we've got another one today. You remember yesterday a guy didn't get deported to Iran because his business was selling sex toys, and he said back in Iran, they take a really dim view of that kind of business. So please, can I carry on selling sex toys in Britain? Oh yeah, of course you can. Yeah, no problem. Well, today's special is this is an Afghan asylum seeker who's been here since only 2025. He's a drug addict, and he has successfully appealed against deportation, will be allowed to stay because he has persuaded a tribunal court judge, a woman called Rebecca Chapman, more of her later, she's a bit notorious on this front, that if he goes back to Afghanistan, the Taliban take a very dim view of drug addicts. So because he's a junkie, he's being allowed to stay here.
There are no words for these sorts of stories at this point, are there? I'm sure that this guy, being a junkie who's only just got here, who doesn't know anything probably of the language, doesn't know very much of our culture, probably has some quite questionable views around the sort of liberties that we hold dear, like many people in that country do. By the way, if he does get sent back to Afghanistan, huge supply of poppies for him to get his heroin fixed if he wants. So he might have a better time there, frankly. But this guy is not
supplies in
right. This guy is not going to be making a major contribution to British society, right? The likelihood that this guy is Shakespeare is, I would say, fairly low. And all these people coming through, even if they were all Shakespeare, which they're not, where are we going to house them? How are we going to do the tests on them? There's also, it's 90-something% men, so you get a big imbalance there when it comes to people being able to find partners. All these sorts of things, before you even start talking about the kind of cultural problems and the fact that they're all criminals as well. It's ludicrous.
Well, Rebecca Chapman, she is one of our brilliant immigration tribunal judges. She's called the Queen of the Asylum Seekers. Among her other rulings are a couple, this was only last week, this one, a couple was granted asylum in the UK because they were lesbians and they were going to be sent back to Albania. And the defence was, Albania's homophobic and they will face persecution. Well, Albania isn't officially homophobic. This decision strikes me as, if nothing else, somewhat racist. But they get allowed to stay because they say, we're lesbians and we'll be persecuted by the homophobes in Albania. Rebecca Chapman, Queen of the Asylum Seekers, says, fine, you can stay.
I'll get in trouble for saying this, but there are charities who tell people when they come here and make these claims to say that they're gay, in very many cases, so that they can stay. And there have been cases both here and in the United States when a judge has gone, okay, well, I want to see some sort of proof. And so you're married to this bloke, are you? Yeah. Well, hold his hand then. No, I'm not going to do that. And oh no, I've given the game away. And these things happen. I think there is an ideological motivation by these sorts of immigration judges to have as many of these people come into our country as possible on these spurious grounds that we've done empire in the past and we're terrible and these people are sort of a punishment for us. That's not a way to run a country. It's not a way to sustain a civilization. We can't keep up with this.
And what is going through? I want to hear from you guys, from the audience and ladies, of course. What do you think? How do we get to this point? We have these judges. These are judges, immigration tribunal judges, who greeted by some guy who comes out of prison. He's done 6 years in jail for child sex, for raping children. And these judges decide he can stay because if we send him back to Syria, he'll be persecuted because he's a paedophile. What is going on in their minds? Let me know. 0344 499 1000. James, all too brief, but great to see you. James Price, former Conservative Special Advisor. Always a pleasure to have him on board. He's going to be a regular on this show. Now, after the break, after the 8 o'clock news, as I've been saying, I'm going to be very pleased to be joined by the NHS nurse who remains suspended for refusing to call a male paedophile a woman. That next, stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
As I've been saying, you may remember from a couple of weeks ago, a big story in all the papers, the nurse who was suspended by the NHS for refusing to call a male paedophile a woman because that male paedophile identified as a woman. So that nurse remains suspended. I would have thought, after the Supreme Court ruling last week, that her situation must have dramatically changed. Why she's still suspended, I don't know. But Jennifer will join us in just a second to tell her harrowing story. In the meantime, before Jennifer gets here, our other big story earlier in the show was, of course, the Royal Marines being embroiled in a DEI row as serving soldiers claim that military chiefs are desperately trying to get women into that crack military outfit. Let's talk to a former Marine who's called in. That's Barry in Northumberland. Barry, thank you very much for calling. What do you make of this story?
Hiya, Kevin. Yeah, well, I served 24 years in the Marines, and I left 11 years ago. But I still keep in touch with former servicemen. We've put up with this for a while, and I've got direct input in lowering the standards and allowing people into the Marines who shouldn't be in. And when I served in Afghanistan,
yeah,
we had guys. We had a guy who came. He wasn't of the standard that would normally expect.
Right.
He caused a direct headache for us. Unable to do his job correctly, and he was a liability to the unit.
So somehow, Barry, he managed to get past the training course, the induction course. Somehow he managed to get through, but was not up to scratch. Now, what our whistleblower friend, the still serving Royal Marine Commando, says is that many of him and his fellow soldiers believe that standards are being lowered now, specifically so that the Marines can triumphantly announce fairly soon, we've got our first female commando. Now, you can tell us, Barry, just how dangerous the lowering of those standards would be. Presumably, if you have somebody who's not up to it, who hasn't been trained to the requisite standards, that puts the rest of you in danger.
Absolutely, it does. And this is a classic case of the government pushing these DEI standards on people, which is going to have a direct impact on the operational capabilities of guys from their operations. And when you're carrying somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, who is a lower standard of everybody else, everybody else has to cover for them.
Yeah.
And it has happened to me on operations where we had that happened. And it potentially is going to cost lives, and it is a fact.
And Barry, I think you said, but how long ago did you leave the Marines?
11 years ago.
Were you sensing then that there was this sort of the aura of political correctness beginning to creep in? Because that's basically what our friend the whistleblower is saying, that the bosses, the military chiefs, are desperate to be able to say, look how diverse we are, look at our diversity, we've got a woman. Were you sensing that was beginning to creep in when you were there?
Absolutely. It happened before I left. I mean, it was coming in. We could all see it, and we've seen it in many forms, and essentially it was just undermining us all the time. But the senior officers who they will do anything to get themselves an OBE or an MBE. They will genuinely sacrifice lads' lives so they can raise up their social standard. And their social standard and where they are is by getting themselves these awards, ingratiating themselves. They don't mind about dropping the standards. You know, they are Royal Marines, but they're officer Royal Marines who are prepared to let the guys down in order for themselves to grow in their little social service where they live.
And the way to rise up the social ladder in that respect is to pay homage to diversity and inclusivity and equality. You know, the modern religions. Tell us about the training course, which sounds incredibly grueling because, as I revealed earlier, 26,000 guys a year apply to do it and only 400 actually make the grade. So it must be very, very tough. How long does it go on for?
Well, currently it's, I believe it's 36 weeks. When I went through, it was 30. Mm-hmm. I must have had it easy back in 1989 when I joined up. Mm-hmm. But it's because of the weapon systems that they've got to learn now, because the amount of them, they've had to extend training, and it is very tough. You know, it's the problem is it's that long and that tough. Female bodies are just not equipped to carry heavy weights for long periods over weeks and weeks and weeks. It's got a very degrading effect on their bodies, and that's why 938 of them have attempted Royal Marines training. 0 have
none of them have ever made the grade, as I said earlier. Well, listen, Barry, thank you very much for ringing in. A really good insight into the world of the Marines. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for calling. Barry in Northumberland there. And we've got a voice note here. This is from Debs, once again on the Marines.
As an ex-serving soldier in the Royal Signals, this is mad. Credit where credit's due. If a woman can pass being a Marine, then good luck to them. And I don't see it being a DEI policy. I just think you need to be able to sustain your ability and be strong and, crack on. And if you can do it, do it. And I admire any woman that can do it. The same as they try and do the SAS or whatever. But hats off to them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with Debs more. If a woman can pass this test, this grueling 36-week course, without any lowering of standards, you know, they can do it as good as the guys, then fine, that would be a great day. But if they can't, don't lower the standards to make sure they can. We're talking about lives here. We're talking about Britain's military forces. So diversity is all very well, but surely it should not be paramount in the considerations when you're talking about recruiting for such a crack force as the Royal Marines. Again, get on the phone, let me know. 0344 499 1000. And I've been keeping her very rudely waiting. In the studio is Jennifer Melee. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Now, I've been telling your story, but just in case everybody missed it, Jennifer was suspended from the NHS because she's a nurse at St Helier Hospital. I used to be on the Sutton Herald. That was in my, when I was a reporter, that was in my local patch. Big hospital, massive hospital in South London. Jennifer was suspended because she refused to call a male paedophile who said he was a trans woman that wanted to identify as a woman. Jennifer refused to call him a woman, a she or a he. She was suspended. He turned round to her, apart from physically lunging at her, he said, "How would you like it if I called you the N-word?" Now, this guy's a prisoner. He was taken out of jail for medical treatment. So given that circumstance, you've got a dedicated nurse, and by the way, a devout Christian as well, just doing her job. All she said to this guy was, "I don't want to call you a woman because you're not. But how about I call you by your name?" That wasn't good enough. So why has nothing happened to him at all? And Jennifer is suspended. Are you still suspended, Jennifer?
Yes, after the Supreme Court hearing, I received an email from the trust saying that we have reviewed your case and we are extending your suspension without pay.
Without pay?
Yes, that at first what they said, that I got panicked. I was panicking and I began to cry and weeping. I said, what am I going to do? You know, suspending me without pay. I quickly contacted Christian Concerns.
And they're helping your legal case?
Yes, so they then emailed them concerning this suspension without pay, and it was causing me anxiety. I was feeling so shaken. And then they now replied and said, "Oh, we are sorry, it's suspension with pay. Sorry that
Okay,
This was your discretion.
Okay, well, I'm glad they're still paying you.
Yes.
When did they start paying you? When did they? That was recent. They just said that.
Well, immediately when they contacted me, I think it was about Wednesday.
After the Supreme Court ruling.
Yes, after the Supreme Court ruling, and then Christian Constance, the legal team, my rep had to contact them and said, you know what, this is unbelievable.
I'm gobsmacked.
It's against the contract, you know.
So. I mean, your ordeal, or this saga, started obviously quite a long time before the Supreme Court's ruling. Now, you must have spotted the Supreme Court ruling on biological sex and thought, well, that must mean that my ordeal is over. You know, they must now say, come back to work, Jennifer. You know, I hesitate. Not all is forgiven. They should say we should never have done this.
Yes.
But on what grounds are you still suspended?
That they at the moment are claiming that I breached an
equality clause or something, or
confidentiality.
Confidentiality?
Yes. I've breached confidentiality.
I think we're talking about how you're laughing. If you didn't laugh, you'd cry, right?
Obviously, I can't see anything wrong I've done that. I've just been a whistleblower. So I did not mention in any way, shape or form anything concerning the patient identity.
Now, tell us why. Now, this guy was a prisoner. He was a jailed, convicted paedophile, a bloke, a guy. Who has decided to identify as a woman, call himself a trans woman. And you said, I'm sorry, I'm not calling you Miss or she or her. I think I've got this right. Tell me if I'm right. For two reasons. One, I believe he was in there for a pretty male procedure. And two, due to your religious beliefs.
Yes.
Well, tell us about that.
Well, to be honest, the patient was in there under urology, and under urology, that's meaning that it's under,
it's very male, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very male, and yes, and for some reason, I don't know why he became so furious and angry and just wanted to self-discharge. And in this case, as the nurse in charge, it was my responsibility to support my colleagues and to try and sort this out with the doctor. And he overheard me over the phone discussing with the doctor and began launching and throwing racial slurs at me, calling the N-words. And I said, I'm only trying to help, and because of my Christian belief and my faith as a Christian, I cannot refer to you as a woman.
Good for you.
Yes, I can refer. I'm saying I'm prepared to call you by your name, but I can't refer to you as a man.
But also, you must have, as you say, urology, very male kind of procedure he was having. You know, you must have felt that it's just a bit absurd to be calling this guy a woman when he's having a very male procedure carried out on him. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
It's almost like the NHS has forgotten the biological fact that, you know, I went to school and I spent how many years, and as a young child, you know what a woman is, what a male is. For the NHS this is a disgrace.
So technically, the NHS, it is a disgrace, by the way. I cannot, for the life of me, work out why you're not back at work. In fact, I can't, for the life of me, work out why you were suspended in the first place. Another one of these examples where you just told the truth and you're the one who ended up in trouble, and the way he treated you was an absolute disgrace. The NHS should have come down and supported you. They should not be putting up with people, racially slurring people like you. That's absolutely disgraceful.
I have been bullied, been moving from from ward to ward because of this situation and demoralizing my, my ability and my, and everything regarding.
But the NHS technically says that the reason you're suspended is because you whistleblew. You spoke out about what happened to you.
Yes.
You became a whistleblower. And by the way, whistleblowers should be protected under the law. So they say you actually broke your confidentiality
that's
terms of your contract. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the claim.
So they're not saying it's because you refuse to call him a woman?
Yeah, at this point, no, they're not saying because I misgendered him in any way, but rather they're now pointing to the fact that, yes, this it's been disclosed that this patient is a prisoner, which he is a prisoner, of course, and is a paedophile. That's the fact.
And it sounds like he's a racist as well.
Yes, and also a very, very racist. I mean, we haven't had anything from West treating, what he's doing about this.
Yeah, there's a very good point. And I mean, have the NHS, any of the people dealing with your case, have they been sympathetic at all?
I don't think they have been sympathetic with me. I mean, before I was formally suspended, I was, picked up from in the middle of my clinic and pulled out without no communication, no email. We need to talk to you.
You were marched out. Marched out of work,
I marched in for to a room for just to interrogate me regarding the internet, and because it went viral, what happened?
Yeah,
and,
of course it did.
And I said I'm not happy to discuss this without my union rep, and because of that, the following day I was marched out.
Yes. How long has this now been going on for? When was the incident?
The incident began 2024 May, the end of May 2024.
That's a long time.
It's nearly coming to a year.
So you've been suspended almost for a year.
No, I haven't. I've been working. Just suspension was just more recently.
Well, hang on. Well, why did they suddenly suspend you then after?
It was after I whistle blew.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
I see. And did you whistle blow because you thought this has gone on too long? Why am I still suspended?
I felt I was being bullied and institutional abuse because, secondly, because of also this fact that the patient being racially abusive towards me, and they did not do nothing about that.
No, that's a disgrace.
And they don't care about how my well-being, my mental health, my emotional well-being. I was traumatized.
Yeah, I bet
my kids were scared of me because at times I would just begin crying. I would just begin crying. Even on the road, when I think about the situation, I was traumatized by the situation. And also, they had to refer me to the nursing board, to the NMC, for misgendering.
Oh, yes.
Yes, they referred me to the nursing board. And
misgendering?
Yes, and the NMC wrote to me that they think I'm a danger to the public.
Hang on, the nursing, what do you call it, the nursing board?
The NMC, the Nursing and Midwifery Council. Yes.
So they decided that you were guilty of misgendering.
Yes.
And they have written to you saying that because of that, you are a danger to the public.
Yes. So
what do you think of that, Jennifer?
I just couldn't believe that.
I can't believe your story.
This is reality. And I was like, it's so unbelievable that.
Let's recap this.
Yes.
Right. This is a male paedophile. Frankly, clearly a scumbag. He's in prison. He gets brought to St Helier Hospital, one of the biggest hospitals in South London, where Jennifer is a nurse.
Yes.
Among the other, she's been suspended from work, allegedly for breaking her confidentiality clause of her contract of employment. He called Jennifer the N-word. She quite rightly refused to refer to him as a woman because he's not a woman, is he? If you've got any doubts about that, by the way, ask the Supreme Court. And now you're saying that the nursing board say that you are guilty of misgendering and you are a danger to the public because of that?
Yes.
Have you asked them why?
I was shocked.
Have you asked them why they think you're a danger to the public?
I was in shock. Yeah. It's unbelievable that someone has to, that someone actually sat down to write to me that I'm a danger to the public after 12 years of my career.
You've been a nurse for 12 years?
Yes, 12 years of my career.
How long have you worked at St Helier?
Since I qualified. I've dedicated my life to St Helier.
And you mentioned your kids earlier. I should have asked you, are you married? How many kids?
I'm a single mom.
How many kids?
I have 3 kids, 2 beautiful girls and a boy.
And what do they make of this?
My young daughter, she studied to be a pediatric nurse, and she said, "Mommy, you know what's happened is she almost even wanted to change her career. She wanted to just go and do something else."
This is the sadness of it.
Yes, the sadness of it.
So do you find the NHS, has become a kind of woke hellhole, isn't it? Its values and its morals, I think in your case, are completely twisted. It's lost the plot here, hasn't it?
It's totally. It's a big shame to the NHS and to the management. In a whole.
And your lawyers, I mean, presumably they're not just trying to get you off the hook. It seems to me you've got quite a case for some serious compensation here. Are you suing for compensation?
Yes, I am suing for compensation for everything they've done to me, for causing me anxiety, stress, and almost traumatized me. And the fact that because of my Christian faith and values, my hope in Christ is much more very anchored and in prayer and reading the Bible, and that's been keeping me strong. And my church, I've got a very lovely Bishop, Mark Nicholson. He's been praying for me with the church, and I know there is power in the name of Jesus, and I believe that God has got this, and it's more spiritual than we see.
Well, look, let's talk about that because you might say that God intervened when the Supreme Court brought this country to its senses, if you ask me. So when you heard that ruling by the Supreme Court that biological sex can only be defined by your birth, your biological birth, you must have thought, well, now the NHS is just going to have me back. They're going to have to forget about all this, aren't they? But no, you must be stunned that you're still suspended.
I was hoping to receive at least something to say, we understand, and now you can come back to work. And despite even Kemi speaking about this, the Conservative PM.
MP, she's right behind
she did. Yeah, she said that she spoke about it, and this is a disgrace and crazy stuff that you were hearing about in this nation, and it's just unbelievable, even to the point that I can't see myself now still at home. It's every day by day.
This must be really tough.
It's very difficult.
But when you get to the end of this horrible ordeal, I would suggest that victory will happen to you. You will triumph here.
Yes.
Will you go back to the NHS?
I love working for the NHS, and I wouldn't say that I wouldn't go back because I love my job. I love nursing, and that's what I chose to do. For the rest of my life, I would still work for the NHS. Yes, I would still work for the NHS.
I mean, it's got a bit of a reputation for being a bit obsessed with the kind of stuff we're talking about. Diversity. The NHS spends £40 million a year on 800 diversity officers, and this kind of obsession with diversity, with wokery, leads to cases like yours. When the nursing board starts saying, they've said that you're a danger to the public because you misgendered a male paedophile who says he wants
more than 6 foot tall. A very, very broad man, and he was quite very scary looking. I was quite shaken, but at the sight of him, it's unbelievable. And
they've done nothing about coming to your support about the racism.
They did nothing about supporting me regarding the racism.
So you go back to the NHS, but which is great of you because I think you're obviously committed to your very important job. But they've let you down here.
They've let me down, and I'm happy to go. To work for the private sectors, which is also I'm more open to, if the jobs out there,
So what's the next step, Jennifer? Are you just waiting for responses to your lawyers, or what?
We're actually waiting for the NHS to get back to me, for Epsom and St Helier to get back to me regarding this, because I don't know how long. They did not give me a time scale of how long I will be on suspension. At the moment, I don't have a clue of what's going on.
This is insane.
If it wasn't for that I'm a strong believer.
Yeah, your faith is...
My faith in Christ that has kept me through this situation. You've heard of many nurses committing suicide because of bullying and intimidation at workplaces. Yes.
Look, let me ask you a last question. Have you experienced men, or trans women as they call them, men who wear dresses, being treated in female wards? Have you experienced that?
Not in... No, I've never.
Well, that's
seen
good.
it.
That's good. It does happen.
It was the first one I've ever experienced.
Just that was the first time.
Yeah, that was the first time. I've experienced.
In at the deep end.
Yes, that was my first experience.
Yeah, well, let's hope it's your last, for God's sake.
Yes.
Well, Jennifer, well, thank you so much. Let's keep in touch,
yes.
And if we can help at all, you've got our numbers. The best of luck to you, and the best of luck to your lawyers, who must stay vigilant on that.
Yes.
You have such a case here. I think it's outrageous what's happened to you.
Yes.
And thank you so much for coming in. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's Jennifer Melley. Will tell us all what you think about her extraordinary story. 03444991000. Back in a mo.
So almost 24 hours without electricity. That's quite something.
24 hours it took. Exactly. We've used the little blackouts here. They last for an hour maybe, and you normally get some sort of warning coming through, but never that everything has gone.
Well, hold on a minute. You're used to blackouts. So last time I looked, Spain's a first world country. Why do they have blackouts regularly?
But we do. We've lived in Spain for 15 years, and we do get blackouts. It does happen. We are used to it, but not for that length of time.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, you just heard Jennifer Melley's extraordinary case. I cannot believe the nursing board are saying to her that because she, quote, misgendered this bloke paedophile, this jailbird paedophile, by refusing to call him a her or a she, that they believe that Jennifer is a danger to the public. You saw her. She's a danger to the public. I mean, this is insane. What is going on? Unbelievable. Let me know. 03444991000. Let's go straight to the phones. We've got lots of calls on Jennifer. Lots of calls on the Royal Marines as well. Let me know what you think about that. But first, let's talk to Brenda. She's a new caller and she's calling from Manchester. Welcome to the show, Brenda.
Thank you very much. I don't really need to... thank you for, speaking with me, but I don't really need to discuss this matter. All that I want to do is make my point and say... That's
all you need to do, Brenda. Go ahead.
Where's the Royal College of Nursing supporting this lady? And also, where are her colleagues?
That's a very good point. Yeah.
That is my concern. Forget all the rest. Yeah. The thing is that the people that she works with who know her, and this could have happened to them.
Well, it could. I mean, I would...
Where is this union that's supposed to be so wonderful and kind? Where are they?
Well, exactly. Where are everybody? I mean, she's got a good legal team, so that's one thing. But the way she's been treated by the NHS and the nursing board is just unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, you saw her, Brenda. You heard her. Lovely lady, dedicated nurse, 12 years, a devout Christian. The nursing board said because she misgendered this paedophile bloke by refusing to call him a she or a her, that she, Jennifer, is a danger to the public. I mean, that's
I have to say, and this is the last thing I'll say because I'll let you get on to
that's
somebody
all right.
else.
Go on, Brenda.
But I have to say, by the fact that this person...
Yeah.
That this is a convicted paedophile.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but they have no rights to anything.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Brenda. Brenda, new caller in Manchester. Yes, she's gone. But she made a very good point, didn't she? Made several very good points. Loads of calls on Jennifer. Let's go straight. Regular caller, but always good to talk to her. Philippa in Dorset. Hello, Philippa.
Hi, how are you, Kevin?
I'm very, very well. What did you think of Jennifer Melley?
I thought she spoke and behaved with such dignity during the interview, and she's obviously behaved in that way with her employers and with the situations that's happened, because she said she was willing to go back and work in the hospital. For her to be physically attacked and to be called what she was called was absolutely out of order.
Yeah, they've done nothing to protect her. She was the victim of vile racism and, in fact, as you just said, Philippa, also a kind of attempted physical assault. This bloke lunged at her while calling her the N-word, and the NHS has done nothing to help Jennifer in that respect. They've just suspended her, and even after the Supreme Court ruling about biological sex last week, she's still suspended. What's that about?
It's so bad, and I love the fact that she stood up for her Christian beliefs, and she said the truth at the end of the day. I think I'd like to commend her, and just she's an amazing lady. I was actually born in St Heliers Hospital 55 years ago.
Were you? Yeah.
And I actually owe my life to that hospital because I was born at 26 weeks and I only weighed 2 pounds 2 ounces. But they lost all my medical notes, so I couldn't go into the Guinness World Book of World Records as being the smallest surviving baby.
Oh.
That's by the by. But, I wish the NHS would stand up for this lady and she needs to be reinstated straight away.
It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. They even tried to take her money away. It's ridiculous.
I know, if Jennifer's still listening, she's got so many people behind her, she just does not know it. And she's an amazing lady, and I commend her, and she needs to be reinstated straight away.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Philippa. Philippa, another great call. Thank you so much for ringing. After the break, by the way, we will be speaking to the director of Sex Matters, the brilliant ladies of Sex Matters, Maya Forstater, Fiona McInerney, and the great Helen Joyce. Helen Joyce will join us because, incredibly, again, bloody NHS, it's so ridiculous. 50,000 doctors are represented by the BMA, the British Medical Association. Sounds like a very austere body, doesn't it? It's a two-bit left-wing trade union. That's all it is. They might as well call it, you know, the National Union of left-wing doctors or something. Anyway, these doctors have declared that the Supreme Court's ruling on biological sex is scientifically illiterate. So when the Supreme Court decided, big news, frankly, the way you define a woman is if someone was born a woman, then they're a woman. It's like, wow, that's really something. Anyway, they took 5 years to reach the obvious conclusion. So biological sex cannot be changed. You can't change your chromosomes. You can put on a dress, you can have surgery, you'll still be biologically a woman. The doctors from BMA, the BMA, have denounced that now, saying it is scientifically illiterate. No. To denounce that is scientifically illiterate. To say that your biological sex at the point of birth is irrelevant is scientifically illiterate. But here we have a problem, do we not? We have a problem because we have an NHS full of these left-wing medics who are now actually campaigning against science. It is unbelievable. We got a real problem here, folks. And, you know, West Streeting, the health secretary, always going on about, oh, yeah, we're going to reform it, root and branch, top to bottom and all that. Yeah, how's that going for you, West? Not so good as far as I can work out. How about this? Kick off with this. Tell those doctors that unless they declare the truth, that biological sex is a scientific fact, they can't be doctors. Because they shouldn't be able to be doctors. If they don't think that biological sex is a scientific fact, what are they doing wearing a white coat with stethoscopes? What are they doing? You know, it's something that needs to be done about this. This insanity you might have hoped would be cut off, would at least be, stopped to an extent following last week's ruling by the Supreme Court. But we learn from these doctors, could even be getting worse. Poor old Jennifer, still suspended. Can I come back to work now? No, you can't. And the nursing board, you are a danger to the public because you misgendered a male paedophile who wants to be called a woman. What? I mean, where are we? Have we gone through Alice in Wonderland's Looking Glass or something? I mean, it is unbelievable, folks. When we come back, though, as I say, we'll be talking to Helen Joyce, who I'm sure has a lot to say on all of these issues. So I look forward to that. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, let's go straight over to the Director of Advocacy at Sex Matters, the brilliant organisation that was so triumphant last week with the Supreme Court's biological sex ruling. Helen Joyce. Welcome, Helen. Have we got sound here? Can you hear me? I haven't got sound. It would be nice. Is she there? Oh, well. Shall I read a message or two? Yeah, here's this is from a Royal Marine, actually, saying that I'm a former Royal Marine of 31 years standing. This has been going on for decades, talking about this DEI stuff. There was a massive push to get women in. We've always said it would upset and destroy the ethos of the Marines. As I say, my point would be that if the women can pass the test, this grueling 36-week induction course, if they can pass it, the same as the guys, give them a job. But so far, more than 900 have tried, and none of them have succeeded. As I say, that's no shame on them. 26,000 guys every year try, and only 400 make the grade, so it's a tough course. I think Helen Joyce is ready now. Are you there, Helen?
I am. I don't know what happened there. We checked our sound and everything.
Good. Well, we've got you now. Excellent. Well, before I get on to this nonsense about these idiot doctors at the BMA, I don't know if you were watching the show or listening earlier, but we had this remarkable nurse, NHS nurse on, Jennifer Melley. She's the woman who refused to call a male paedophile a woman. Because that was a male paedophile who insisted that he identified as a male. Jennifer refused to do it and remains suspended by the NHS. She assumed that following the ruling last week by the Supreme Court that her situation would change. So she got back in, but her lawyers got back in touch with the NHS and said, well, when can she come back to work? And they said she's still suspended. Furthermore, the nursing board, their reaction to her current state is, you misgendered this person, this bloke, although they probably didn't say bloke. You misgendered this person, this trans woman, as they like to be called, and therefore, this is what the nursing board said to her, you are a danger to the public. What is going on, Helen?
It turns out that there's a strong determination not to put this ruling into law. I mean, today we're seeing the Scottish Government, for example, claiming that it can't act until the Equality and Human Rights Commission has done a full update to all its guidance. But, I mean, the HRC, wonderful and all as it is not the Supreme Court. What the Supreme Court says is now the law, and anyone who doesn't follow the law is flouting the law and can expect to suffer for it in court. But there's just foot dragging going on all over the country, Kevin. I didn't know this was going to happen. I didn't realise that so many people would say the law isn't what I like, so I'm not going to follow it. And the NHS, of all places. Incredible.
It is incredible, but then again, you know, you could almost say unbelievable. And except for the fact we know the NHS, so it is sadly very believable. The NHS is going to be one of the bodies that is going to try and undermine everything you have achieved with every fibre in their collective body. Now, let's move on to the doctors at the BMA. The BMA represents 50,000 doctors. This union, representing doctors, qualified doctors, has today condemned the Supreme Court's biological sex ruling as, and I quote, biological nonsense and scientifically illiterate. I mean, you know what I would do? Do you know what I would do if I was West Reading? I'd call every single one of them in one by one and say, unless you are prepared to revolve around scientific fact, you're fired. You can't be a doctor. This is ridiculous.
There's one faint glimmer of hope, but it's very faint, which is this is actually the youth bit of the BMA. The whole BMA hasn't
children
on this. This is the youth bit. But I mean, honestly, they're the ones who are growing up. And I can tell you that young doctors have been taught an awful load of old nonsense for at least 10 years now in medical school. You know, there's a lot of young people who really think that, you know, sex is some sort of spectrum, or that it's more complicated than that, or that intersex something or other, or clownfish, or gender dysphoria. I mean, they've just got this mush of nonsense terms that are confusing them, and they have been unable to talk about it clearly, and they've signed things about transphobia, and they've been told that, you know, they mustn't misgender. And the result is that it's broken their brains. And then they come out and say that it's bigotry of the Supreme Court to just rule on what the statute of the law is. And they call it scientific illiteracy. I retweeted this, by the way, and various people replied to me saying things like, well, I think a bunch of doctors know more than you do. But it turns out they don't.
No, they certainly don't. They say that the divide between sex and gender... By the way, all this business about, oh, well, sex, that's a different thing to gender. Actually, that's not true.
If you use... is that I'm not interested in gender. I'm only interested in the sex bit.
I say gender means the same as biological sex, like it used to. But these activists have taken the word gender and say, oh, that's totally different. Well, it's not true. That isn't true. But they go on to say that the divide between sex and gender, this is a quote from these doctors, has no basis in science or medicine while being actively harmful to gender diverse people. Don't really care about the gender diverse people element of this, but how can doctors say that this has no basis in science or medicine? This is getting to be quite disturbing, I would suggest.
I think it got quite disturbing quite a long time ago. I mean, what I genuinely think is that young people have been indoctrinated. I think schools have taught children a pack of lies, and universities are continuing the process. So anyone who's been to university in the last 10 years, maybe 20, depending on what subjects they did, have really been taught a whole load of Judith Butler stuff. Yeah. And, you know, those of us who are older than that were blissfully unaware that we were paying through our taxes and as parents to have our children indoctrinated in things that make them think that older people are ignorant and bigoted, but also that endanger younger people. It's not good for people to think this sort of thing. It means young people putting themselves in danger and endangering other people. And we've been paying for this all along.
Exactly. Now, you... wonderful women at Sex Matters have waged the most incredible campaign, and it's always been a privilege to have all of you on my show and the other shows here on Talk, and congratulations on your extraordinary triumph last week. The problem is now you're going to have a lot of people, including people in the Labour cabinet, the government cabinet, that's good to know, isn't it, who are going to do their level best to undermine the ruling as much as they possibly can. Now, Sharon Davis, who you obviously know, she was on my show a couple of nights ago, and she says that she, and maybe J.K. Rowling and all her fellow campaigners, she said they are going to sue left, right and centre because, for example, the London Marathon on Sunday broke the law. It allowed men who identify as women to race against real women. They allowed that to happen. That now is against the law. And Sharon says every time they see one of these examples, they're going to sue. Will you be doing the same at Sex Matters?
Well, we've got a couple of court cases that we're waiting for a judgment, actually. We've got a court case against British Transport Police, a judicial review on the subject of searching, because their searching policy is clearly unlawful. It says that men who have pieces of paper saying that they're women can strip search women, and that male detainees can demand to be searched by a woman if they say that they're women. And, you know, if they don't withdraw these things, then yes, we will continue with those cases. But at some point, look, do you understand how much it cost for Women Scotland to get to the Supreme Court? Probably about £1 million. The last of those cases cost £400,000. We can't sue everybody. We need to start making people buckle.
Yeah, but I think that if you get a few test cases, and as you say, people have to buckle and say, oh my God, this is the law, then I think generally it will settle down. But I'm sure
I hope so.
Well, look, you've got some work ahead of you, you know that, but I know you will continue. And it's always great to talk to you, Helen. Thank you so much for your time. Helen Joyce there, Director of Advocacy at Sex Matters. Let's go straight to break. When we come back, a few more calls, then the 9 o'clock news, then another hour, then it's the 10 o'clock news, and then my show is over. Right, see you in a minute.
I mean, what that is downright cowardly on the part of the organisation. They seem unable to face up to the truth, and so they're shooting the messenger. And this is such an ugly part of our institutions now, you know, that I get so many emails from people, including from inside the police, by the way, they're so desperate to reveal things, and yet they're terrified.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Quick message from David in Poole. He says the far left, we're talking about the Royal Marines and their push towards DEI. David says the far left now control the military as well as the schools, police and judiciary. Stasi GB under two-tier Keir and Net Z Ed. Good point, David. I don't know if it's far left, but certainly left-wing policies seem to saturate every area of British life. Let's go on the same issue to Nottingham and talk to a new caller, Jim. Hello, Jim. You want to talk about the Royal Marines? What would you like to say?
Hi, Kev. Great show again.
Thank you.
I'm a father of a Royal Marine, and he joined in 2013. He come out in 2019,
yep.
And I believe it was about 2015. They had Michael Fallon, Julia's mate, come down to Limpston.
Yeah.
Come down to Limpston and told him in no uncertain terms that they'd have to suck it up, even if they have to lower the standards. Women would be joining.
Really?
Royal Marines, the commandos. Yeah.
So your son was in it for 6 years, in the Marines for 6 years.
Just over 6 years.
So he completely recognises what we're talking about here. This urge towards diversity. This there's a serious push, it seems to me, for the Marines to be able to say, at least the chiefs, to be able to say, "Oh look, we've got our first woman commando." Your son experienced that, did he?
Yeah, he did, and a lot of the lads started putting the chitties in then, and it was only the lads with longer service that stuck it out in his group, and the lads he knew.
Yeah,
because they wanted wanted to keep going as long as they can to get a decent pension. But my lad just chucked it in. He said he'd had enough.
So your lad must be quite a tough guy, because that course is one hell of a gruelling saga, isn't it?
The elite, Kevin, aren't they?
Yeah.
The tip of the spear. We're like the paratroopers.
See, I'd be interested. Yeah, of course they are. They're one of the great elite military forces on the face of the earth. I mean, everybody respects and indeed fears the British Royal Marines, and well, they should. I wonder if your son would think that a woman could ever pass this course as it stands now, because what we're talking about here is the Marines who's still there. They fear that the standards are going to be deliberately dropped so that a woman can pass. But
that's what Michael Fallon said, Kevin.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
That they're going to have to suck it up, yeah?
Suck it up, because no matter what.
Why? You know, I mean, these are our armed forces. This is about, safety. This is about people's lives. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Well, it's not their kids' lives, is it? It's not their lives they're putting on the line.
It's a very good point. Jim, great call. Thank you very much, and respect to your son. Thank him for his service for me. Jim in Nottingham there. Right, let's quickly, a couple of voice notes before we go to the news. This is Tristan on Net Zero. Take it away, Tristan.
This net zero stuff just needs to stop. We had the issue with Heathrow, which obviously was down to net zero policies. We've obviously had this issue in Spain, Portugal and parts of France, which again is down to net zero policies. The more we push to net zero, the more we're going to have these issues come here. And there will be a revolt because people are just sick of it. Energy bills have gone up over 20% since Labour came into power. I'm sorry, but they lie and lie and lie, and it just needs to stop. It's just impoverishing the West, to be honest with you.
I agree with Tristan. I mean, the insanity of this is off the scale. Our energy prices, our bills are 5 times higher than in America. Why? Because America fracks, because Donald Trump has cancelled all the green claptrap. Therefore, Americans have got nice cheap energy for the next 125 years. This fracking energy that they've got, it was Barack Obama, a Democrat, who said, right, frack away. They pulled up enough shale gas to provide Americans with cheap energy for the next 125 years. And irony upon irony, they're selling it to us. So we say, we don't frack because we really care about the planet. But we don't mind buying it from some other country that does frack. It's just ludicrous, ridiculous, virtue signalling hypocrisy. That is what we're trapped in. We are trapped in a mad world of Ed Miliband's swirling mass of virtue signalling incoherence, and it's got to stop. And today, it seems to me that Tony Blair made an intervention. Let's listen to a quick voice note from Chloe, and this is on Nurse Jennifer's story.
Hi, Kevin. I just wanted to lend my support to Jennifer as a fellow nurse midwife. I think it's probably maybe her Christian beliefs that the NMC are targeting. If you remember a few years ago, there was a nurse that was suspended because she wanted to wear her small silver cross to work as a devout Christian. Christianity is the religion in this country that appears to be allowed to be ridiculed and mocked.
It's a really good point. Thank you, Chloe. The religion that prevailed here was the religion of DEI, of diversity, of gender equality and all that. And the religion that was chucked out the window and into the bin was Christianity. Let me know what you think. 03444991000. When we come back, we're going to be talking about that Spanish outage and why it happened and why Labour may unravel because of it. That next. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is...
Welcome back. Now, in 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes, I'm going to be taking your calls. We've got lots to talk about tonight, as you well know. We must talk about the Royal Marines embroiled in a major bitter row about DEI, diversity, equality, inclusivity. Who cares? DEI, diversity, because the existing soldiers, many of them allegedly, believe that the bosses, the military chiefs, are lowering standards so that a woman can at last pass the notoriously tough induction course, a 36-week induction course that nearly everybody fails. 26,000 men every year give it a go, only 400 succeed. Over 900 women have tried it and none of them have succeeded. So some of the soldiers fear that they're lowering standards so they can go, hey, we've got our first female commando. Like anyone's going to care, to be honest with you. I mean, it'd be quite good, I suppose, if she genuinely passed the course as it stands now. But if they bring the standards down, that is not good. That's the opposite of good. So let me know what you think about that. 03444991000. And, of course, Jennifer Melley, the nurse who so bravely talked about a harrowing ordeal. A dedicated nurse and a devout Christian who refused to call a male paedophile a woman because it was a bloke in a dress who wanted to pretend he was a woman. A jailbird in prison, brought out for a medical procedure. When she said, I'll call you by your name, how about that? No, that wasn't good enough. He lunged at her physically and called her the N-word. Nothing's happened to him. She's still suspended from work. And the NHS and the nursing board have said to her that last week's Supreme Court ruling on biological sex doesn't make any difference. She thought that would be the end of her ordeal. No, she's still suspended. And the nursing board have ruled that she is a danger to the public because she misgendered this guy. Well, I'm misgendering him now. He's a bloke. It's a child sex abuser, child rapist male. He wants to be called a woman. Yeah, well, let me have a think about that. No. I'll call you what I like, OK? And Jennifer had the right to call you what she liked as well. But why is she still suspended? And what the hell are the nursing board doing calling her a danger to the public? You saw her. 03444991000. When will this madness stop? Talking of madness, it is time now to address Ed Miliband's madness. Crazy Ed, the Net Zero Secretary, because there is a massive fallout going on in the Labour ranks, with Tony Blair saying it's time to rail back from this net zero zealotry, and number 10 Downing Street's having none of it, saying, oh, we're not going to do that. But it's been brought into sharp focus by what happened in Spain and indeed Portugal and parts of France yesterday. This massive power cut that many experts believe is due to or was caused by an over-reliance on renewables, solar panels, windmills and the like. Well, to sort of cut through all of this, let's talk to our favourite climate change expert, sceptic if you like, from the Daily Sceptic, Chris Morrison. Welcome, Chris.
All right, Kevin, happy anniversary. It's you've been on air for a year on the show.
Indeed. The only way is up after this year. No, seriously, it's been a great year. And you've been a major contributor to our success, so thank you so much. Let's talk about, first of all, what happened in Spain yesterday. I want to get on to Tony Blair and Ed Miliband in just a moment, which I think is very, very interesting. As I was saying earlier in the show, I find myself in the extraordinary position of actually backing Tony Blair. That won't happen very often, but it is happening now. Anyway, let's talk about Spain, what happened there yesterday first. Experts are saying that almost certainly this was caused by an over-reliance on renewables. So I do believe that yesterday, as the outage was occurring, Spain was being powered by 60% renewables, wind and solar power. Last Wednesday, Spain experienced its first ever 100% renewable day. Now, a lot of greenies will tell you, oh, this is marvellous, there you go, it proves it. Well, experts are saying, well, that's all very well, but actually the more you rely on renewables, the less stable your grid becomes. And they say that's why the disaster struck yesterday. What's your feelings about what went on?
It seems almost certain that that's what's happened. This problem has been known about for some time. It's called inertia. But it basically means that the grid has to operate at a certain frequency and it can't deviate that much from it. And certain things like gas, coal, provide a lot of inertia with their spinning turbines. Wind and solar, which are as weak as goodness knows what, don't. And the problem is that the more wind and solar you put into these grids, the more unstable the grid becomes and the more likely you are to have the frequency dropping. And it can drop within 3 seconds and you're in trouble. And of course, this has been known for some time. I was actually reading a little bit up today about it, 1 or 2 papers. It's been known for some time this is a problem with putting renewables on the grid. There are no solutions as far as one can see. They talk about better battery storage, better computer technology, all this sort of thing. Well, they would, wouldn't they? But what happens is what happened in Spain, and what could happen tomorrow, I'm afraid, in this country. Possibly not as much of a risk in that we're still, thankfully, not at 60, 70% renewables. But if we go along this mad, headlong rush, we may well have this enormous instability and the whole system just will collapse and not come back. Well, once it does collapse, it's very difficult to get it back, and it took the Spaniards about a day to get it back fully running. So these problems are known, and yet the Mad Miliband, all these people continue with their headlong rush. And this is not the only problem. We've talked on the programme about all the other problems that occur, the intermittency, the fact that the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine, and all of these things. So you have all these horrendous problems by trying to run a modern industrial society on sunbeams and breezes. It just makes sense.
What they said, to explain away what happened yesterday, the power companies in Spain are saying that this outage, this blackout was caused by, and I quote, extreme temperature variations causing a strong oscillation in the electrical network. Well, that sounds all very technical and impressive, but apparently yesterday and the day before, it was 22 degrees centigrade in Spain. That's 68, a rather mild day with no difference in temperature. So their explanation doesn't seem to stand up.
Well, they got it half right, because it did cause this oscillation, but I don't think it was nothing to do with the weather. It was due to the instability of the wretched renewables. So they had it half right. They came up with all sorts of things. They suggested a cyber attack. They suggested it was an extreme weather, although as you say, it was a balmy 22 degrees. And remember, Spain has got a working electrical system when it's twice that heat in the summer. It didn't go down then. No, this appears to be almost solely due to the problems of net zero, one of the many problems of net zero, and this is likely to occur over and over again. Your colleague Julia Hartley-Brewer, I was listening to her this morning, was talking about we need a few blackouts in order to sort of concentrate minds, and sadly I have to agree with her. Well, thankfully we've had one in Iberia. I mean, our great sympathy goes out to the Iberians, but it could easily happen here. And I assume this is what you were saying in the intro you wanted to go talk about. You're starting to see the politicians starting to realise they're in a hole and start digging, which is how I would describe the Godfather, Tony Blair, as pronouncements.
As I said, Chris, I'm in the very rare position of saying that I back Tony Blair 100% on this one. What he's done is deliberately thrown a hand grenade into net zero, into Ed Miliband's net zero project, because the consummate politician and intelligent guy that Blair is, he's spotted that this net zero madness, this mania, is going to lose Labour the next election without a shadow of a doubt. So he wants it to end. And what he has said is that people will not put up with having these extremely high energy prices, highest in the world, 5 times higher than America, when they then learn that all of their efforts were going to be made colder, because of heat pumps. We're going to make poorer because of our astronomical energy bills. And then we find out that this is all so that Ed Miliband can say to Xi Jinping, hey, don't you feel guilty? Because Britain's doing so much because we produce less than 1% of the world's carbon emissions. You and I have discussed this many a long time. So anything we do won't make any difference. Tony Blair is saying people know this and they're not going to put up with this rubbish.
Yeah. I really need to read what Blair says. It was actually part of a longer report. Incidentally, his head of climate, who wrote the report, has got a degree in music and sociology, so I'm not completely sure. Well, you laugh. A lot of the green people have degrees that have got nothing to do with science, of course. And there's no reason I got a degree in history, but I sort of, but I'm a student of science, not a science. Anyway, leaving that aside. Yes. We need to see what Blair is saying. I think the problem that these people have, as I say, they're in a hole and they've got to stop digging because, if you're a true zealot for net zero, and this is what they are still all signed up for, and I think Blair is still signed up for net zero. For instance, they've realised that it includes all hydrocarbons are in everything we do. It's easier to state what hydrocarbon use isn't in building materials. And of course, the big one that I always note is in food production, fertilizers, artificial fertilizers. Yeah. If we take hydrocarbons and go to net zero on that, as many reports that they consult and pay for quite clearly say food production will halve across the world and millions and will starve. Well, so Blair comes up with this thing and I've seen it also. I think Starmer did to an extent by saying people's lifestyles won't be affected. Well, who the hell do you think you're kidding? What you've been planning for the last 20 years, what your government is on a path to doing is to destroy all of the things that we liked about modern industrial societies, the fact that we don't starve, the fact that good health, the clean water. What do these people think powers all the electricity and the energy that powers all of this? It's all down to using hydrocarbons, and I guess they worked it out that as I say, if you remove hydrocarbons, so they're stuck in a hole because I think Blair. I might have seen it, somebody else might have mentioned it, but he said, I'm not a climate denier. The problem they've got is for 20 years, in order to promote what is essentially a political agenda, net zero, it was always a hard left collectivist agenda, they're stuck with this idea that there's a climate emergency, a catastrophe.
Yeah. And there isn't.
An emergency.
Let me just tell you, I've got a kind of brief précis of Blair's stance here. So he's attacked Starmer's net zero plans and called for a radical reset of the government's green agenda. He said that, this is a quote, it's wrong that people are being asked to make financial sacrifices and changes in lifestyle when they know that their impact on global emissions is minimal. He went on to say that politicians, as in Keir Starmer, etc., must face inconvenient facts which show that any strategy based on phasing out fossil fuels was, and he said, doomed to fail. Meanwhile, number 10, Keir Starmer, essentially responded by saying, we will reach net zero in a way that treads lightly on people's lives, not by telling them how to live or behave, and so on and so forth. He's a wide range of views within the Labour Church and all that claptrap. But basically, Keir Starmer's responded to Tony Blair by saying, we're sticking with Ed's plan. Well, Tony Blair has done this because he is the consummate politician, and he knows that if Labour do carry on like this, with this net zero insanity, that it will be absolutely catastrophic for them. And many people believe that he's setting the scene for Keir Starmer to, shall we say, shuffle Ed Miliband out of the net zero secretary position. Because if he doesn't, Labour are going to be in big trouble.
Yeah, but still, they've still got this problem that, Blair also said that he was in favour of carbon capture, perhaps one of the silliest ideas that people have had in the green agenda. The idea of sucking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and then storing, this under the sea and all this, costing billions and billions of pounds. They're still stuck with the idea that there is a climate emergency. And so whatever they say, there will always be this huge political agenda that says, oh, but you spent the last 20 years telling us the climate's going to collapse. Well, how can you now turn around and say nobody will be affected? Nobody will be, you'll be able to carry on eating meat and driving your SUVs and all this sort of stuff. It doesn't make sense. They're simply playing politics. They're in a hole and they've stopped digging, but they have no idea how to get out of it. And I say, my view, as you know, on Daily Skeptic, I'm not around about net zero, I write about science a lot. My view is they've got to get around the fact that this climate emergency was a fake political agenda. There is no climate emergency. Even the IPCC doesn't say there's a climate emergency. The IPCC says quite clearly that extreme weather events have not increased over the last 100 years, and humans have not had any significant part. So if when you say people accuse you of climate denial, you say, well, what am I denying? Because the data shows quite clearly the ice is growing back in the Arctic, the polar bears are sort of record numbers, the coral on the Great Barrier Reef is at record numbers, the Gulf Stream is as stable as it was 40 years ago. A recent paper shows all of this shows that their climate emergency was a fake to start with a huge amount of fake opinions put into climate models, fake statistics, the measurements they do of the temperature, which they constantly adjust and invent, and all sorts of things. And so you have this emergency, which they're still sort of apparently clinging to, but they've realised that the solution, which is to actually get rid of hydrocarbons, is simply not possible. It would lead to destruction of economic and societal economy and the society as we know it.
It's just lunacy, isn't it? I mean,
the whole thing is lunacy.
I mean, do you sense in any way that our Labour heroes are taking note of the popularity of Reform's policy on net zero, which is basically to chuck it in the bin and forget all about it, a la Donald Trump, because I'd certainly vote for that, and so would millions of other Brits. Now, that policy is proving extremely popular for Reform. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens on Thursday, because we all know that in local elections people vote for national issues. But meanwhile, Labour, as you say, continues falling into this abyss, down into this rabbit hole of green lunacy. And every time someone, vaguely sensible like Blair crops up and says, maybe we should put the brakes on this a bit, they just double down and say, no, full guns blazing, we carry on. I mean, what is wrong with them?
Yeah, I mean, they drink the Kool-Aid. They think that the population think there's a climate emergency, or that climate change is one of their main preoccupations. In fact, it isn't. It depends what question you ask. If you ask questions like, are you in favour of net zero to save the planet, you'll get 80% of people saying they're in favour of net zero. And there's been a lot of this been going on in the last 20 years or so. But the experience in America has shown quite clearly that if you actually ask proper questions, climate change is sort of like 19th out of 20th in people's concerns. And this is why Trump has been able to come into power and simply abolish it. I mean, it's all abolished. He's got, in fact, I sort of look every day, the GISS, which is the NASA temperature database, which has been more fiddles in it than the music cupboard, I say. More fiddles. Been fiddled all the way up the wazoo. It's gone, and a lot of the things that were tacked on to NASA or tacked on Department of Energy, all to do with climate change, it's all gone, and nobody's noticed it. The public are not that worried, and I suspect a similar thing would happen here. We've had 20 years of brainwashing about this fake climate crisis, and I suspect that as people have started to realise the odd blackout occurs and this sort of thing, their interest in it will fade, or they will find ways to sort of perhaps look a little bit more carefully at the science. The science, incidentally, which for the last 20 years has been banned from being discussed on mainstream media, and that should tell you everything you want to know about what's been going on in the last 20 years.
Well, my perennial question is there any actual solid evidence that mankind is affecting the climate, is ruining the climate? Is there actually any scientific evidence to prove that? I'm prepared to accept that perhaps we're making a contribution. But before I commit to any kind of view on all of this, I'd like a lot more scientific data. There isn't any. It's a sort of religion. It's done on kind of faith. Yes, of course we've got a climate change crisis. Well, have we? Of course mankind is responsible. Well, are we? Prove it.
Yeah, we must look at all the science, and we can say, yes, carbon dioxide has increased slightly, and we probably have had some effect on that, and the temperature has warmed slightly, not as much as all the fiddle databases might show, but the temperature has warmed. But we're coming out of the Little Ice Age, from the 18th century, which gives you a clue as to why we've had this warming. And there are lots of theories that carbon dioxide saturates at certain levels, and therefore its warming effect becomes less. That's why it's been 20 times higher in the past. There's all sorts of evidence that shows that carbon dioxide actually temperatures rise, and then that produces warmer oceans that degas the oceans of carbon dioxide. There's a whole interesting, fascinating area, in fact, that which is why I came back to journalism to write about. I was an actual journalist. There's a fascinating arguments that go on with scientists who are trying to work out genuinely how the atmosphere works. But the idea that the whole thing is about to collapse is a nonsense. No, there's no proof at all. There is real proof. It's an opinion, a hypothesis.
It's a religion, is what it is, Chris.
Oh, and it's become a religion, of course.
Yeah, I was on vacation last week. I drove down to Cornwall, and it's extraordinary how much of the countryside is vandalised by these vast solar farms, really ugly things, and more windmills, of course. So would you predict that before too long, given what happened to Spain, we'll suffer a similar fate here in Britain? Do you think there'll be a big outage here due to the same reasons that Spain experienced one?
Well, I hope not. And I don't want to alarm people unduly, but there is no reason why it shouldn't happen. Because we have a similar system to the one they had in Spain, and it's just as unprotected. And we have people in charge of the Mad Miller Band who are just as keen on producing as much of this energy pushing into as possible. And so therefore, it's very, very likely, I'm afraid.
That will be a galvanising event, as Julia was saying. People in Britain will go, well, that was pretty bad in Spain. If it actually happens to us, that is going to be a very literally dark day for Ed Miliband, because people will not put up with power cuts. Power cuts traditionally have toppled governments, and may well have...
I remember the 70s buying candles, but in the 70s at least it wasn't as bad because we didn't rely on electricity for everything. We sort of got by when it was dark for 4 hours, but not now. The fear I have is that if it topples over, and in particular in the last winter we've had these Dummflauts. This is German word, but as I say, the rough translation is no frigging wind. We've had these periods. If it happens in a high pressure -5 in a January, and it happens for 2 days, a combination of them, tripping and a combination of no renewables, people will die. People will die.
This is just so ridiculous. Honestly, Chris.
We can say it now. We can say it now and warn people, because nobody wants this. But if you carry on this ludicrous idea that you can power, as I say, the energy system on the breezes and the sunbeams, people will die. Very likely. Very likely.
Well, let's hope the nation comes to its senses, but there's not much sign of that right now. Chris, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Chris Morrison there, the climate editor at the Daily Sceptic. Right, next up, we're going to be taking your calls. You know what we're talking about, the Royal Marines. We're talking about Nurse Jennifer Melley. You want to talk about net zero, anything you like. 0344 499 1000. Stay tuned.
I mean, what that is downright cowardly on the part of the organisation. They seem unable to face up to the truth, and so they're shooting the messenger. And this is such an ugly part of our institutions now, you know, that I get so many emails from people, including from inside the police, by the way, they're so desperate to reveal things, and yet they're terrified.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, let's go straight to your calls. First up, it is Susan, a new caller from Brighton. Hello, Susan.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
I'm very, very well. You want to talk about the Royal Marines?
Yeah, actually, my uncle's in the Royal Marines. He said to me, my nanny's going up the station to join up. But unfortunately, when he got back, she said, "Did you get in the army?" He said, "No, I got on the wrong queue," which is typical of my husband. He said, I'm in the Royal Marines now. So,
wow.
Yeah, but he wasn't actually on the land. He was on the ships. He was on the Colossus first.
Okay, right.
Then he was on the Warspite.
Right. But see, what do you make of this DEI, this diversity drive to get a woman, to get females to become Royal Marine Commandos? What do you reckon of that?
Personally, I don't think they'd be strong enough.
Yeah, that's what I think. And see, that's the worry, Susan. You know, there's a reason that over 900 women have tried this course and all of them have failed. Something like 950, I think, have had a go at it.
Really?
Yeah, it's like that's over all the years. It's like a 36-week course. And you ask anyone who's done it, it is incredibly grueling. As I said earlier in the show, 26,000 men every year try it. Guess how many succeed? 400.
I haven't got
400. So it is the toughest course imaginable. And I agree with you. I suspect that women just are not strong enough to do it. And that's what the Marines are worried about. That's what our whistleblower friend is worried about, that the chiefs, who are desperate to say, look how diverse we are, we've got a female commando, will lower standards so that female and future females can pass. And our friends are saying that will put lives at risk. That's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to do it myself. I mean, my mum was in the Royal Air Force. She joined that up, but that's okay. But I've got nothing against women going in the services, but I really don't think they'd be any good in the Marines.
I agree with you. Look. As I said earlier, if they don't change the standards of this course, if they keep them where they are, and there are women out there who can pass it, along with the men, good luck to them. Yeah. But if they bring down the standards to enable the women to pass, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. Yeah, exactly. Another example of DEI madness, Susan. Susan, I've got to move on, but that was an excellent call. Please call me again. Just Susan there in Brighton. Let's go to Eastbourne, near to Brighton, and talk to Jason. Hello, Jason. You want to talk about the Marines as well?
Yes. Well, if you get a load of this one, would you want to send female infantry soldiers into battle on the battlefield?
Well, yeah, it depends. You know, I don't think women are constitutionally unable to be in combat, to be good soldiers. But the Marines have extremely...
It's heavy work, though. It's heavy work.
Well, yeah. But the Marines have extremely stringent standards. They have physical standards that, a lot of people say are frankly beyond women. So it's not about whether or not they can be soldiers. It's about whether or not they can be Marines.
I think they're gentle sex. I don't want women being doctors and nurses and stuff like that, I'll be honest with you, but I don't think they should be going into battle.
Well, that's an interesting debate as well. Personally, I don't have any problem with that, as long as they're up to the job. As long as they are as good as their male compadres, no problem. Yeah. But if they're not, if they're being kept there just so the Army or the Navy or the Air Force can say, oh, look how diverse we are, we've got lots of women on the front line, and that makes our forces weaker, then that is madness. That is madness. So
yeah, it is. It's a terribly difficult job being an infantryman, and I used to know. I used to be one. So and it wasn't really for women, really. I think.
Okay. You should have said that earlier. You know more about it than I do. But point taken, Jason. Point taken. And thank you for the call, Jason in Eastbourne. There. Should we take another call? Yeah. Let's talk to Andrew in Bristol. He wants to talk about net zero. Hi, Andrew.
Yeah, hi, Kevin. Very good evening to you. This is becoming insanity itself.
Isn't it?
It's proof that the inmates are running the asylum, quite frankly.
Yeah, the inmate, the main inmate being crazy Ed Miliband.
Well, what crazy is it's probably an inadequate word to describe him. He's a complete nutter.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Who in their right mind backs this blocking out of the sun and at the same time promoting solar panels?
That's right. Well, one moment they want to create the sun, next minute they want to block it out. And as I said, just saying to Chris Morrison, I drove down to Cornwall last week from London, and every other field, as far as the eye can see, these hideous solar panel farms. More and more, this country is being converted into this sort of weird power grid, renewable power grid. And as Spain found out,
Wouldn't be so bad if climate change or the climate crisis was a real thing, but it isn't. We don't need it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people say that. I mean, there's no real evidence that, as Chris was saying, there's no real evidence that we've got a climate change emergency, but that's the religion now, isn't it?
Well, it certainly is. What really surprised me today was your announcement on the programme earlier that Tony Blair suddenly thinks that net zero isn't a very good idea.
Well, I think he's trying to sort of say, oh, it's a good idea, but we've got to be careful. What Tony Blair has worked out is that it's very unpopular, that people don't like big surprise, people don't like paying the highest energy bills in the entire world. People aren't keen on the fact that British energy bills are 5 times higher than America's. Tony Blair has worked out that is not popular. So he says let's move away from that. But I'm afraid that Ed Miliband is just this zealot, this crazy zealot. And it's unlikely we will move away from it. But that way madness lies, I'm afraid, Andrew. But hey-ho, welcome to Starmer's Britain. Andrew, great call. Thank you very much. Andrew in Bristol there. Let's go to break, take more of your calls after these messages.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just about 25 minutes of this excellent birthday show to go. By the way, got a message from Neil here. Hi, Kev. Just raised a glass of wine for your birthday. Happy birthday. Neil in Labour obliterated Wales. Cheers to that, Neil. Cheers to that. Thank you very much. This is from David. The MOD is talking crap. They will compromise standards to follow this madness. It makes me livid. I think a lot of people agree with you, David. Tim writes, I'm a veteran, and this may explain why 1,000 military guys are quitting every single month. Here is another one from, we've got one here. This is funny. This is from Mark in Norwich. Hi, Kev. I'm incredibly stupid and I have a huge beer belly and all I do is eat kebabs, pizzas and drink beer all day and I'm so out of shape I can hardly get out of bed. Apparently there aren't any Marines like me. So in the name of diversity, do you think they'll be happy to recruit me? The way it's going, Mark, yeah, sure, you're in. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised, to be serious. Let's go back to the phones and let's talk to Peter in Worthing. Hello, Peter.
Hi, Kevin. This is great. I've actually already spoken to Jeremy, Ian and Alex recently, and it's been quite frivolous on a couple of them. I've done a few political songs.
Right.
I spoke to Ian about a friend of mine who was a whistleblower some years ago, Steve Bolson, and he blew open the paediatric cardiac scandal in Bristol.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah.
Everyone said, oh, great, that's fantastic, Steve, good guy. Well, we don't seem to have a job for you. He ended up having to go to Australia.
Was he a doctor? Was he a doctor, Peter?
He's an anaesthetist. And he's one of the most eminent consultant anaesthetists in the Antipodes now. Well, he's probably retired. But,
yeah.
But he did so much good, and nobody supported him. No one would give him a job. And what I wanted to say was an experience I had about 12 years ago. Went to Latvia, went to Riga for a weekend break.
Yeah.
And speaking to the young people, it was like speaking to people in Brighton. Students, they were great English, they were really modern, great. The old people, impassive faces, looked like putty faces, they looked like the old Politburo.
Yeah.
And I said, what's with this? They said, well, they were brought up under the Soviet regime.
Yeah, they're terrified of everything they might say. Yeah, repressed.
And they couldn't. And we got the same thing happening. Well, a kind of thing happening here. And I've been in the health service for most of my working life, and I can see people are frightened to speak up for good reason because they'll lose their jobs. They won't get promotion.
Exactly right. I mean, we've got...
It's stifling progress. It's stopping people saying what they really think is wrong with the health service.
We're supposed to have laws. We're supposed to have laws to protect whistleblowers. But the truth is, those people who are brave enough to step out, put their heads above the parapet and say there's something wrong here and I want to make it public, perennially, it basically ruins their career. We do not tend to protect whistleblowers. So we heard Jennifer Melley, the nurse earlier on the show, who bravely spoke out about her ordeal, and she's being punished for breaking her confidentiality contract with the NHS. Well, where does that fit in with the whistleblower law? But you're right, whistleblowing, it's supposed to be protected by law, but those people who are brave enough to do it end up, at the very least, experiencing a lot of difficulties, like our guy in the Royal Marines. He's a whistleblower. He's gone public with this. And what happened to him? He was flown down to London and interrogated for 2 hours, as he said, treated like some kind of terrorist. You need a lot of courage to be a whistleblower, and you need to know, it's not easy. It's not easy, even though it's supposed to be protected by law. It's a good point, Peter, and thank you very much for the call. Please call me again. Peter in Worthing there. It's that time. It's time to talk to Georgina, who's in London. We know she's in London because she's on every night, but it's always a pleasure to talk to her. Welcome to the show again, Georgina.
Oh, hello again, Kevin, and happy birthday, talkTV. You're a year old today.
I know, amazing, isn't it?
It is amazing. I want to say I was alarmed and distressed at the way that Jennifer Mallet has been treated. Not only was this lady viciously, verbally attacked, but she was physically attacked by a man. And it's now a Supreme Court ruling that it actually was a man, and a paedophile, no less.
Yeah.
You expect to be stabbed in the back, Kevin, by your enemies, but to be stabbed in the back by the very people who were supposed to support you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not only disgusting, but it's soul-destroying for Jennifer. I mean, this lady has quite literally been thrown to the wolves.
Yeah. She has. It's outrageous. And by the way, I mean, obviously, this business of misgendering. So this is when blokes who want to be pretend they're women insist that we call them women, or the other way around, women who want to be men. You know, so if you or I go up to some bloke in a dress and go, "You're a bloke in a dress, you've misgendered me," as if it's some kind of law, as if you've broken some kind of law. As I said earlier in the show, I don't want to upset these people. You know, I'm not going to go out of my way to go, "You're just a bloke in a dress, aren't you?"
Yeah.
But the fact that they act as if this is against the law. It's my choice what I call people. It's not their choice. And also, the nursing board to turn round to Jennifer. You saw Jennifer. You heard her.
Yeah.
A woman of dignity. A very nice lady, I thought, by the way. And to turn round to her and say that because you misgendered this paedophile freak, this bloke who came into your ward. By the way, for a male operation, it's so ridiculous. You know, it was an operation on his manhood, put it that way. So that's another reason why she felt a bit ridiculous calling him a woman. But she had other reasons not to do it. But the nursing board have said to her, well, because you misgendered this male paedophile, this jailed male paedophile, you, Jennifer, are a danger to the public. Do me up. What?
Well, that is disgraceful. And you know what, Kevin? It worries me what these young doctors are actually being taught, because I wouldn't want to go for some kind of examination of my undercarriage and have some young doctor expecting to find a male appendage. It's just... No, stop laughing. I'm being really serious now.
I know.
This is just... I mean, this lady needs immediate reinstatement. You know, she obviously loves the profession she's in, and she really wants to go back. And, you know, kudos to her for that. She's an inspiration. I think she's taken it on the chin. And she's taken it better than I would have done, because I don't think I would have been as dignified as she was, to be honest.
Absolutely not. No, I thought she was an amazing woman, and she's been through hell. And as you say, she's such a dedicated nurse. She wants to go back to the NHS. Damned if I would, if I was in her position. But good for her for that, because she's committed to her profession, a very important profession. But, I mean, what that NHS are putting her through is just disgusting. It's an outrage. And West Streeting should get involved, should get that woman back into work right away. Georgina, always a pleasure. Great to talk to you, as always, of course. The great Georgina in London there. We're going to go back to break now, and after that, back to your phone call. So stick around.
I mean, what that is downright cowardly on the part of the organisation. They seem unable to face up to the truth, and so they're shooting the messenger.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, let's go straight back to the calls. By the way, in about 10 minutes, or probably less than that, Petri Huskin will be in the studio to tell you what she's got lined up for your entertainment from 10 p.m. until 1 a.m. In the meantime, we still have time to talk. It's good to talk on Talk. Let's go to Chris in Cambridgeshire, who wants to talk about the migrant crisis. Did you see we've gone over 10,000 now, Chris?
Yeah. Look, once again, all of the migrant crisis, everything. If you look at what's going on at the moment, all of the minorities are being given everything they want. The majority of people in this country are being elbowed over to make room for them everywhere. The nurse who gets threatened by a warped and twisted criminal has losing her job.
Yeah, exactly. And the guy, the Royal Marine, who's worried about lowering standards, he gets flown down to London as if he's some kind of criminal. Whistleblowers always end up
in spent away, and instead they're being given the right to stay here for literally the most ridiculous of excuses.
Yeah. Did you see the one? Did you see the new one today, Chris? Did you see the new one today? An Afghan junkie, drug addict, has been allowed to stay because he says if you send me home, the Taliban will give me a hard time because I'm a drug addict.
Look, they want to protect him, but what about protecting society?
Yeah. What we're saying to him.
Surely that's what they're there for.
Well, you're talking about immigration tribunal judges whose job, it seems to me, whose self-appointed job, they've decided that their job is not to protect British society, it is to endanger it by allowing convicted, dangerous criminals to stay in this country, particularly sex offenders. It's good the way they do that, isn't it? Yeah.
The whole thing just seems to be completely and totally out of balance.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Something has gone wrong in this country. Everything is warped and twisted and wrong.
Totally warped and twisted.
Yeah, exactly right, Chris. We are on the same page as usual. Thank you very much for another excellent call. That was Chris in Cambridgeshire, regular caller. And let's go to Edinburgh now and talk to Pam about the transgender row. Hi, Pam. What would you like to say?
Hi, Kevin. I spoke to you a few months before Christmas about Trump and the migrants. That's not what I'm going to talk about. I want to talk about this transgender issue. I want to tell you a very sad story, if I may, and I'll be as quick as I can. I think there's too many of these people jumping on the bandwagon calling themselves transgender when they're not. Many years ago, I studied as a beauty therapist, and we used to take clients in at night to gain experience, and I was very good at makeup, and I wanted to do makeup, and that's all I wanted to be. And my tutor said, I've got one for you, but he's a man. It didn't bother me because I love makeup. But I was really shocked. You know, he came in, I expected a wee man. This was a
big bloke, was it?
Built man. big bloke. I think he was a lumberjack, if I remember right. Anyway, yeah.
Probably not allowed to laugh, are we? Don't laugh at him.
No, I'll set the scene for you because that's how shocked I was. Put him behind the screens. We put him at the back of the room so nobody else could see him.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to go and get some water. I'll show you how to cleanse your face, blah, blah, blah. When I came back, it was so sad. He had changed. He was in a blouse, a skirt, fishnets, and a wig. And I was really shocked. But there was something in me that thought, what is going on here? And it was like he turned into a woman. I mean, he was like so excited about makeup. He had a family, he was married. You couldn't tell anybody. It was so sad.
This is his
He said,
thing,
The only thing I'm happy with is being like this, that I can't go out like this. And you know, Kevin, that affected me for a lot of months. And the sad part of it was, at that time, I was sort of, I was learning. I had a wee room in the house, and I was married to a policeman.
Yeah.
And he was going to a tranny festival thing in Edinburgh later on in the year, and he said, the college is shut, could I come to you and get my makeup done? And I thought, I don't think my policeman husband will see you as a big man and walking out as a woman. But that's besides the point. All I'm saying to you is, I think there are genuine people out there.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree. Look, Jennifer, the guy you're talking about, he deserves, our sympathy, of course. There's nothing against any of these people, but my view on trans people is live your lives exactly how you want to, and I hope it makes you happy. But when you start telling me that, I've got to accept that a bloke in a dress is actually a woman, then I'm not going to do it. I draw the line at that.
He wasn't like that. But
I get it. I get it, Pam. A lot of these people will certainly deserve our sympathy, and all trans people got my sympathy. I'm all for trans rights. And by the way, they didn't lose any rights last week with the Supreme Court ruling.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to put that over because it affected me greatly for a great many months. I really was quite upset by it, and I never thought. I'm quite a rational person, but I felt so sorry for him.
Yeah.
He had a family and he didn't know how to deal with it.
Poor guy. But thank you for that, Pam. Really good, nice call. Thank you. Pam in Edinburgh there. Let's go to Andrew in Newport, who wants to talk about the migrant crisis. Hi, Andrew.
Hiya, Kev. All right, mate?
Yeah, I'm good.
What it is, my son, he had a common law wife, and he had, we split up from her about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
I haven't got the room to put him up. He's got 2 dogs he absolutely adores, so he lives in the caravan on my drive.
All right. Okay.
He has to come in my house to go to the toilet.
Right.
I allow him to use the cooker and etc.
All right.
He's always worked hard, paid taxes.
Right.
And now the government are on about... he's on a housing list. He hasn't been able to get a house because they say there's none available. And then they just brought out now that they're going to rent houses for migrants.
Oh, yeah, I get it. Yeah, sorry, I wonder where we were going with that. Yeah, I mean, so your son is having to live in a caravan on your drive, and yet these migrants are going to be given lovely houses all over the country.
Yeah, my boy is 30 years of age. He comes in, he says, Dad, I've worked, I tried everything. He said, what's going on? I said, son, I don't know what to say to you.
I mean, that is what's annoying so many people around the country. That, think about the NHS, think about dentists, think about lawyers, everything. The migrants get priority, yeah.
Yeah, I had cancer and I was in hospital.
Yeah.
And I had 2 nurses from India and they were magnificent. Yeah. But they come over by the right means.
Yeah, no, look.
And they looked after me. But you can't tell me that these guys, no women, but these guys in boats are going to come over and be my doctor or be my nurse and look after me. It's just isn't happening, mate. And my son
it's not going to happen because not very many of them are doctors or nurses. They just say they are. If you talk to lefties, it's like these small boats coming across the channel are full of engineers, doctors, professors, surgeons. No, they're a bunch of guys who are aged about 18 to 34, and they're just looking for jobs.
Go pop. It's going to go pop, mate.
I think you're right.
Quite frankly, I don't want to watch it. It's going to go pop, and I think the government ought to be sued for putting their citizens in jeopardy. Surely it's treason.
Well, we could give that a go. I'll go along with it. I suspect it wouldn't succeed, but it's an interesting idea. But yeah, I mean, people are getting more and more annoyed about this migrant situation. So I take your point, Andrew, and give my best to your son, will you? Andrew in Newport there. Should we quickly, what time we got? Yeah, I'll just quickly go to Glenn in Andover. Hello, Glenn.
Oh, hi, Kevin. Great show as always.
Thank you.
Happy 1 year anniversary.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
I thought Jennifer was very brave coming on.
I did too.
I really hope she gets her job back in the NHS.
Well, I mean, I just think it's ridiculous that it beggars belief that she's still suspended. And I think not only will she get her job back, I think the NHS owes her a lot of compensation for what they've done to her. It's absolutely outrageous. And what a nice, dignified woman she was as well.
Yes, she was. I just think, even with the Supreme Court's ruling, I don't think much is going to change, sadly.
Yeah, well, I think it will slowly, but I think a lot of people thought that with that ruling, the biological sex ruling, was it last Monday, that's it, right? There'll be no more gender rows. Well, I suspect that the campaigners, that their work has only just begun. There's going to be a lot of legal activity going forward, but more and more, one would hope that the law, as laid down by the Supreme Court, will become law. At the moment, there's a lot of bodies trying to undermine that ruling, and I don't think that's right. Glenn, thank you. Excellent call. Thank you, Glenn in Andover. And Petri Hoskin is in the studio. Hi, Petri.
You poor thing, you sound like you got a cold.
I have.
Oh, no. Is it just a summer cold, or are you feeling ill?
Well, you know, I go on vacation for a week.
Always happens.
I was still feeling pretty cool on Sunday. I went out for lunch, and by the end of the lunch, I go, oh, you know that thing? You go, hang on, when you start to get that throat thing.
Always happens when you take a break, doesn't it?
Yeah, and so you think, oh, it's just a little sore throat, and then within 3 hours, you feel like death.
I feel for you, because it always happens to me as well. Every time I take a break, I get ill. It's just not fair. Right, coming up with me, we're going to be looking at Trump's 100, his first 100 days.